Good evening, and welcome to tonight's episode of the Pathfinders podcast. I am Trio0311, here with my co host and partner in crime,
Hello, everyone. I am Nazeris.
and we are the Pathfinders. And we are here to help you navigate all the nebulous information surrounding Star Citizen and its development. That's our thing, our catchword, nebulous. Everybody, you have to drink when I say nebulous or Nazareth says nebulous. But yeah, we're back tonight, and today is Tuesday, right? It is Tuesday. It is
For the
Tuesday.
next
Hooray!
2 hours, yes, we got
Yeah,
Tuesday.
it is Tuesday. We normally try to do this on Mondays, but it doesn't always work out that way. Monday was family day for me, so I asked Nazareth, and he graciously said, "Yeah, we can put it off to Tuesday." So here we are.
Yeah, as my kind of like way I live life, I cannot like if it's family, you just can't touch it. Like it's anything. As some famous franchise character says, anything for family.
Yeah. So tonight we are back with our regular content, that being our Spectrum Pulse. To start, Spectrum Pulse is where we the Pathfinders are trying to keep our fingers on the pulse of we use the word spectrum metaphorically, um, being that it would be like saying the internet and social medias within game, but also we keep an eye on Spectrum here in real life, as well as Reddit, the different discords we're on, just to see what the community is talking about, what they have questions about, and that way we can contribute to that conversation with you, our listeners and watchers. Um, the guy, Blizzard, the guy who said that looks similar to one of our hosts. Hmm, might it be the bald guy? But yeah, so that is Spectrum Pulse. It's also sort of we are along with the Pathfinders theme. We are scanning pulses, just like your radar ping in game, out into the verse. To see what's out there and to gather information using our scanners, and then our scanner anomalies are where each of us, Nazareth and I, um, we dig down into things, topics that we are interested in, that we think that a lot of times it's when we find information or when we've gone down the rabbit hole and we're like, what, this is interesting, this is good information. I don't think that everybody has read this, or has a complete picture, and so we share that information with you, first in an objective manner, and then we provide you with our subjective interpretation as well. And so that way, and when we post these videos to YouTube, in the and I need to do that for last week's episode. I apologize, as well as this week's episode. I'll do those on Thursday and Friday, as well as get started as transferring the other episodes. But what we do is both Nazareth and we have a working document that we work on to compare and share notes, but it also is where we include all of our citations for our Spectrum Pulse and scanner anomalies. And then we link that in the description on YouTube. So that way, if you're like, okay, that was really interesting, I want to know more, or I want to read it for myself, or I want to save it for later, in order to share with friends, you can go to that. We turned it into a Google document that is basically open for everybody to read, not edit. And that way, you have the information for later. And so we've got Spectrum Pulse and two scanner anomalies tonight, one for each of us. Our last sort of regular content would be our sit reps. Oh, and scanner anomaly. We've got something that came up on scans. We don't know what it is. We don't have all the information. We're going to do a more detailed scan. Direct all your scanners towards that. That anomaly, and get all the information on it. And then the last thing that we do regularly is our sit reps, which is where we're just giving you an update, a situation report, or a report on a situation regarding something that we have covered in a scanner anomaly or a spectrum pulse. And so we do those. There's usually a couple of minutes here and there, just when after we have received new information from CIG in regards to a topic we've covered before. But tonight for our Spectrum Pulse, and if you if you do the social medias, you can find me and Nazeris both on Twitter, and I use Twitter. Shiori, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna butcher your name. Shiori Katsuni, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you joining us live tonight. Blizzrad, good to see you as well. Everyone else who's in chat, thank you for joining us live. I really appreciate it. Not only do we enjoy interacting with everybody who listens and talks with us live and asks questions, but this is also helping me on my journey to affiliate with Twitch by getting me the hours as well as the average viewers I need. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it, and I look forward to talking with you guys.
Speaking of Twitch, you've got to change the title of the stream.
Oh gosh, epic fail. I do this every time.
Yeah, kind of. It's okay, though. It's okay.
So I am on Twitter. Twitter, it's Tree0311 or 0311-SC. Nazeris is on there at Nazeris YT, and that is where I give out the announcements for the podcast episodes as well as my other streams, and I also share little bits and pieces of information. As I'm digging through all the nebulous information with you, little screenshots, tidbits here and there.
What is that nebulous?
So, oh, I did. Cheers. There are 2 beers in that mug.
If you want to do the easy way, the links are down below the stream.
Yeah. The links are down on the stream to Twitter, to my Discord, which is where we also share lots of information. Has lots of helpful bots.
And for those watching on YouTube, if he's done it right, the links to all what he just said will be in the description of the video as well.
We will see if I do it right. Thanks for jinxing. I'm not going to knock on my desk like I did last night because it made my dogs bark and it woke up my son.
That would be so bad.
But Nazeris, while I update the stream description, do you want to get us started with our Spectrum Pulse?
Alrighty, so Spectrum Pulse so everyone's been doing their version of CitizenCon expectations, so we figured why not do the same thing? I think we have one more. Yeah, we have one more episode till CitizenCon, so pretty good time to do it because we're gonna have a lot of kind of information dropped in the next week, so we won't have time next week. Anyway, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 talks to talk about, and the first one is Journey to 4.0 Planetary Pyro. The description reads, join us for a guided in-engine tour through many of the planets and moons of upcoming Pyro system, exploring their current development status and why there's more than just burnt charred husk you may have read about. So to be brutally honest, I don't have a ton of enthusiasm for CitizenCon this year. Mostly because they seem to be switching really hard, and as time goes on, and if you go back to watch some CitizenCons, especially in the past like 3 or 4 of them, to as little as impact on development as possible. Now, because how CIG has built their company, it's a double-edged sword. There are 2 sides to every argument. Faster, better development, or tell the players, the people who are backing it. And anytime you move in one direction, you move away from the other. So the less impact they have on development, the less cool stuff they do for us. The more cool stuff they do for us, the longer and harder development is. So one of the big things, and actually support CIG's position on this one, is the ending of Bug Smashers. Because how that had to happen is they would need to fix something. They would need to write down how they fixed it, and then they would need to break off a version of the game, break it again, and then Mark would have to go through a semi-scripted time to unbreak it again. So, or to fix it. Yeah, to break it and then unbreak it. Yeah. And so it was just a lot of process that if that didn't happen, you could get twice as far with development. in that span of time. So 1 bug broken or 1 bug fixed to 2 bugs fixed kind of thing. So that makes sense. Don't break the game again or branch off and break it just to make a bug fixing thing. If you're not going to record it live, just don't. Some companies just do like coding live. I think early Astroneers did live coding, just doing coding. I know was also Stonehearth did coding days where they would just have their programmer code on stream. So that is a thing, but for several reasons, CIG can't do that. They did get in trouble for Bug Smashers for showing some engine code, which apparently was proprietary Crytek junk. But
Oh yeah,
for
I remember
CitizenCon,
reading about that.
specifically, I do not support the do as little as possible. CitizenCon is the time of the year like that they get to go all out, and yes, they didn't plan well this year. They didn't get on the planning far enough. I understand. I can't say anything against them for pandemic if ands or buts. And they're also moving a whole bunch of things, so it's hard to like really criticize them this year. But for what I've heard that CitizenCon is going to be, it's basically just taking devs aside for a couple hours, talk on your subject, and move on. So that's why I don't have a lot of hope for this, or not hope, but I don't have a lot of excitement about it. Like, yeah, it's gonna be nice, but looking through this, there's not a lot of new in here. So we've like, if there's anything new, and this leads back directly to the first chapter, whatever it is, first session. I don't know what it's called. The planetary pyro. What could they possibly put in this talk that we didn't see last year? So we went through like every planet. We're shown development shots. Sir, we're gonna get a guided engine tour. Like they're gonna be there. They're gonna be in their like god camera swooping around the planet. But that was the only thing missing, is a like complete look around the planet from last year. And we saw every planet. We saw their development states. It was nice. I don't think they can really add anything to last year's stuff, except for here's a quick update. And that could have been a sprint report. So
Before you continue, I'm going to switch
mhm.
our scene over so that way we have the CitizenCon page up in the view
Yep.
screen and we can scroll down.
So my comments will probably be pretty negative, if not very lukewarm, throughout this entire segment of the show, just because I think they should do a bit more for CitizenCon. They don't go to any other conferences like currently. I imagine when they do the push for Squadron release, they'll go to a ton of different cons, PAX, Gamescom, all the big ones. But year after year, CitizenCon is the time to say, hey, companies that do what is it called? Journalistic companies. This is us, and this is what we do. This is how far we've come in our year, and by chipping off of that, just to get more stuff done in that quarter or in the previous quarter or previous 2 quarters, it I feel like it would negatively affect the face of Star Citizen, instead of like I said at the beginning, there's a push and pull. Sure, you actually get more done for the next CitizenCon, but the face of it that all the people see, that Kotaku's looking at, gets a bit less. And I can see this going very badly post CitizenCon with like, oh, they showed stuff they've already showed. They did almost there was no pizzazz in it, no flashbang. And I feel like all of these are going to fall into that talk on your subject for a little while and go away. There's no groundbreaking, or not groundbreaking. There's no like hot button talks this year. We don't get Squadron. We don't get theaters. We don't get Tony Z. I don't think who's the guy who's doing the arcade mode version? Paul Jones is in there. John Cruz in there with their ships. We see them pretty frequently. Ian Leland, who? I forgot the name of the guy who's heading all the arcade modes now, and he's not in here anyway. Yeah, there's no Saddle no Saddle. It's been 12 years, not 12 years. It's been 10 years. When did they announce Saddle? It was like year 1 or 2, so it's been like 9 or 10 years. I guarantee they'll get back to it. Just post Squadron for sure. Post Squadron episode 4 possibly. There's 3 episodes. Sorry, there's only 3 episodes. And post Squadron episode 3. So to end off my rant about CitizenCon, for the planetary tour, I don't expect much except for what we saw last year, except for current version of the current version of the planets, just God mode cameras, just venturing around. It looked pretty landscape. So, I assume we're doing talk over talk.
Yeah.
Okay, then search it.
So, for me, for for CitizenCon, the not having a keynote speech is a sort of a catch-20. Is it a catch-22? That's what I'm thinking. It's a give and take, because we do know that the keynotes do take a lot of effort and a lot of dev resources. And right now, those dev resources that would be used towards making a keynote presentation, those people are working on a lot of stuff relevant to Squadron 42, but also the PU. And so it's really, yeah, we want Squadron 42 to, continue making progress. We need it. It needs to get released. We want the PU to also continue making progress, because we know that a lot of resources are being devoted to things that are a priority for Squadron 42 that will end up in the PU. So there's also the not having a keynote. They've kind of soured the community on the keynotes, because they always tend to show off things that aren't coming anytime soon. And last year's keynote, if that's what you want to call it, with the gameplay demo with the outposts in Pyro, is probably the first time we've seen something that is actually close to coming into the game. Like those outposts.
What about the Microtech one?
Have you ever been to that facility? Have you ever infiltrated that facility? We have Microtech, but that facility, and that, the infiltrating that facility, that mission, is nowhere in sight.
Okay, one, we don't have Pyro. We do have Microtech. That came in that
Yeah.
year. We haven't gotten Pyro in the year.
But Pyro is coming, and they've been showing off those outposts all year long.
Right, but they haven't been showing off that mission.
No, but they
and I highly doubt we're getting that mission.
But the stuff relevant to that mission is being worked on right now.
Well, so was the stuff for the other mission?
No.
We had infiltration on the roadmap.
It's on the roadmap right now, yes. And, but it's relevant to underground facilities, and so they're like that sort of stuff. I see that us getting that. I see what they did for the Microtech mission as much more scripted. This isn't exactly what you're going to see. This is just sort of an example. It's so we can show off the weather on Microtech and show off the landscape of Microtech and the design philosophy of Microtech. And this is what facilities on Microtech might eventually look like. But none of that stuff is, the actual gameplay doing that mission isn't anywhere in sight. And I think that we will actually see the infiltration missions or the gameplay relevant to those outposts with Pyro before they go back and add that sort of stuff to locations in Stanton. I think the Pyro will be the proving ground for doing those sorts of things before they go back and, because we have all those facilities surrounding Microtech that are surrounding New Babbage that, I guarantee you are probably eventually going to have some sort of interiors and mission-based interiors, but I don't think that's going to be a priority for a while. And I think doing that sort of stuff on the outposts that they're letting Montreal build is where they will prove that stuff out and then make it bigger later. But that's sort of the to me it's like, okay, the keynotes are fun and interesting and they are eye catching, but they have soured the community a lot, and so I can see that aspect of it, and they require a lot of a lot of resources from the devs in order to get those things done, and so it is a bit of a drain on resources. So removing the keynote right now, when in order if to me in order to try and minimize or mitigate some of the crunch that the devs are going to be under with getting Pyro in with 4.0, as well as working on Squadron 42. I think that's fair. And for my perspective on CitizenCon has always been, I really enjoy seeing the opportunity for the devs to show off what they've been working on, and having a variety of devs, not just the big keynote speech that's flashy and everybody likes and then ships. And I think it should be more of a broader a broader view to allow us to be like to appreciate the work of other devs and other teams that doesn't necessarily get shown off as much. So that's I like to cheerlead the devs. They're creative people. I appreciate that creativity because I don't have any of that. I struggle with it, and so to me, it's like appreciating art. And yes, I am Marine. I like crayons. Blah blah blah. But I can appreciate the work that they put in and the passion that they have for their work, and I like seeing them being able to show it off, be like, hey, look at what I did. I think this is cool. Do you think this is cool? So that's why I'm interested. That's why I like CitizenCon, and I will miss the keynote. I'm hoping, but I am hoping that in the future, keynotes are much more relevant to what is actually in production and coming soon. And I think last year's keynote was a step in the right direction. It's not like night and day different from the Microtech and keynote in 2019, but I think it is closer to what they're working on right now. So that's just my 2 cents in regards to CitizenCon at large. As far as the first segment, Journey to 4.0 Planetary Pyro. So they did what they showed us on the planets last year was a lot of concept art and a little bit of in-engine stuff, and it was a lot more talking about their design philosophy and their inspiration. And a little bit of the lore update, because we do know that Pyro has received a little bit of whitewashing, light retcon, in order to make it a bit more hospitable to players and NPCs. But they really showed off, for the most part. It was mostly Pyro 1, 2, and 3 is what they showed off. And really that was mostly just screenshots and a little bit of engine stuff. The keynote was on Pyro 3. There's like 6 moons around Pyro 5, which is the gas giant. You didn't, you saw a little picture in a descriptor, but that was it. We didn't hardly see Pyro 5 at all, which is a gas giant, far different than Crusader. And we don't know if it's Crusader is not a gas giant, but it's smaller than a gas giant. It's a gas, what's the word? Someone help me out. Yeah, we have not seen, they didn't even talk about Pyro 6, or Pyro 5, which is the planetoid that is in orbit in orbit around Pyro 4. Pyro 4 is the gas giant. Pyro 5 is the planetoid that is slowly being pulled into the gas giant, along with like 6 moons. And so they really showed us Pyro 1, 2, and 3. We didn't get hardly anything on Pyro 4 and 5 and the moons. If we got anything at all, I'd have to go back and watch it to make sure. But I remember the focus is on 1, 2, and 3. And Pyro 6, which is where Ruin Station is. Ruin Station orbits Pyro 6. Was nowhere to be seen. And so I'm expecting to see, instead of concept art, in-engine stuff, someone's character running around on a planet, and them showing, remember how they talked about a lot of the things that they wanted to do to, like on, I think it was Pyro, I forget which one, but it had like those arches and the cliffs and canyons. I think we're going to see an update on that work, and and I'm hoping that they'll give us some information on how that is progressing and how they might be able to bring that back to Stanton and put that forward into systems later on. But I'm also hoping for an update on the lore to go alongside it for the planets and moons that they hardly mentioned last year. Um, so I like seeing that stuff because the teams that have made all the tools for them to make the planets and moons are pretty incredible. Um, I also one thing that they haven't talked about at all and didn't show off last year was the Akiro cluster, which is it's a asteroid field. Um, you know what we're gonna do. I'm going to
Go to the map.
yeah, we're gonna pull up the we're gonna go back and forth between the star map um, and the CitizenCon thing while we're doing this, just so I can illustrate some of the things that we're talking about as you and I go back and forth. I should have thought about this ahead of time.
Yeah, it's fine.
And
Wait, we did get the what are you pulling that up? We did get a shot in the video of all pyroplanets.
yeah,
And their vegetation breakdowns. Their what is it, that high level god mode, god tier, whatever Chris called
hmm
it.
it was very limited.
That spread.
What
So we
what
got to
they showed
see
us
like
more
what
of
they're
was
aiming
like one,
at.
2, and 3.
Huh? Was
They
that?
there was a lot more focus on one Pyro 1, 2, and 3. It felt like, and this is in engine versus a lot of that was concept art. Um, so I do think there's gonna be a lot more detail, but so yeah, here's Pyro 6 that we were talking about, and you can see Ruin Station is in orbit of Pyro 6. Here is the Pyro to Stanton, or Stanton to Pyro, Pyro to Stanton jump point. So if you remember from the CitizenCon 2019 keynote presentation, where the Carrick jumped in to Pyro from Stanton,
And
and
the
you can see
intro
that,
video.
yeah, and it's in our video. Haha, isn't that cool? And it showed that station um, near the jump point. It wasn't Ruin, because Ruin Station is way the hell over here. So um, I am betting that that was some sort of station for a Lagrange point that ends up being around here. I am looking forward to the day when they update the. There we go. There's the threat map, economy map, population map. Okay. I'm looking forward to the day when they update the arc star map to show where the Lagrange points are relative to the planets um, in their position on the star map. But because Pyro 6 is over here, it's would it be the fifth Lagrange point would be on the opposite side of its orbit. So it could be over, would be over here. Um, yeah, so that I'd have to go back and look at the maps and everything how that works, but there could definitely be there's likely to be multiple Lagrange points near here. There would also most likely be an infrastructure station over here, like a waypoint or a rest in, or an R station, near the jump point, because we know that there's going to be a bunch of infrastructure around jump points. We saw that in the CitizenCon presentation. But like I said, I'm hoping that not only do they show the planets and moons, but here's the Akiro cluster. They haven't talked about that at all, and it's let's back out actually. No, I want charred cluster of blackened asteroids. While mostly worthless, some rare materials can be found here. I think that there's a good likelihood in the future that we will see a lot more mineable things added to the game, and certain things that are ultra rare and harder to find and are um, less worthwhile for industrial scale mining to go looking for and extract. These are the sorts of things you'll find in more dangerous places that have been mined clean by Shubin. So I'm hoping they'll talk about that during this segment as well, but we'll see. But that's all that I've got for the planetary pyro part. I think it'll be interesting, um, but not super revealing. I'm just hoping for a little bit more information update on the because it does talk about why they're more than just the charred, burned husks. So I'm hoping that the information that we get during that will update the lore to match, what Pyro is going to be post light, retcon light. Yeah, Ionic Force it says to create the high risk versus reward. Yeah, absolutely. If you can imagine, you know, something that is ultra valuable in the Akiro cluster for mining, but you have to go to Pyro to get it, and you not only have to go to Pyro to get it, but you also have to bring it back to refine it, or try and refine it while guarding it in Pyro, and then bring it back to Stanton.
Or do it in progress with the expanse.
Yeah, yeah. Either way, the every point of the operation is higher risk, but you're doing that because there would be a high market value for something that is very rare, and has a lot of value. Something that we haven't seen in Stanton, because Stanton is so accessible.
Iconic Force also says we have not seen this kind of risk versus reward yet. It will be very interesting. We have
Very
actually.
light.
Bounty hunting and bunker running is much more profitable than literally anything else. So you get a higher risk, you will die, you can lose items, but you get paid better. Doing
It
cargo
it's high
runs or
risk,
box
but it doesn't
missions.
have the high risk along with the risk associated with remoteness. So yeah,
No, it's a
you're
different
engaging in
kind of
combat,
risk, but
but you're not engaging in combat in an area that is ultra low resource, and you have to tiptoe through the tulips all the way back to Stanton to actually sell the stuff, make money off of it.
or more Ruin Station,
I
depending.
don't think they'll be buying those things at Ruin Station. The pirate stations, I don't think they're going to have much need for ultra rare minerals and elements and materials. Um, but yeah, let's move on to the design brief investigations. Nazaris, why don't you go ahead and start this off and let me know what you think, because I think you
Oh,
probably
great.
might be in a similar vein to me. I haven't read your notes, so we'll see.
I
That'll
didn't
make us
actually write
interesting.
down any notes, so
Wow,
that's why I
you're
didn't
just
make
gonna
notes.
wing it.
Yeah, I didn't know how to write my feelings about it. Anyway, Journey 4.0 Design Brief Investigations. Again, just sounds like a segment to me from IC. Anyway, explore the pitch process, not even like an actual functional thing, just the pitch. For a new mission archetype that leaves combat and delivery behind for mindful deduction and increased storytelling is the description of it. Why can this not be a heck, a 10-minute, 5-minute? Why does this have to be an entire talk? This is what we're thinking about investigation missions. This is not a thing. This is not even a thing. This is as a thing as the segment on turning on and off the lights with the fuses was a thing in ISC a couple years back. This is not a thing. It's like the pitch process of a new mission. So you're just gonna tell us how you pitch internally about new missions? How does that help us? How does it give us any like worth? I'm sorry. I'm so negative about it.
I think you're reading too much into the pitch process part, because I see this much more as explore the pitch process for a new mission archetype that leaves combat and delivery behind. So it's the, the so what Tony Z gave us was also pitch. That was a pitch for the quantum economy, and so I totally see how they could be going through the pitch process with some design
I
element
will.
visuals for how
I
this
will
would
be
work.
very pleasantly surprised if this is more than okay. I will be shocked if this is more than just you have to look around for stuff. It's no longer waypoint missions and go pick up this box or shoot this guy. If it's more than that, I will be shocked.
I
If it like
guarantee
that's
it's more
all
than
I
that.
expect of this talk is just you're gonna have to look for stuff. You're gonna have to investigate stuff. Just
But with
honestly, like
these
patronizing stuff is what I'm imagining.
with these missions, they have to make it so that these missions are systemic, and everybody has
And they
already
have
said
to and they have to have a lowest common denominator version. So they have to be able to let people like how CIG has been doing it, which is not skill on anything, just push button, you're good. They haven't added skill to almost anything in the game yet. So it's very like you have to be able to the person who joined yesterday needs to be able to fumble his way through these things.
no.
So
No, but it's
um
like the difficult, that you're going to have to learn how to do things. They're not going to hold your hand all the way through. Let's see, my mic is much lower than Nazeris's. Nazeris, why don't you go ahead and turn yours down a little bit, and I'm going
Alright.
to.
Like
I'm
I am really sorry I'm being so pessimistic, but I don't understand why any of these things could not have been an ISC. Like there's nothing in these that I can think of so far, and this program has been out, or sorry, the program split up online, so that's
Why
how
does
you
it
read
have to
that.
be something that couldn't be in an ISC?
It's CitizenCon. It's a once a year event.
Yeah, it's once a year event, but it's ISC is 10 minutes, and they do things for a couple minutes. This is
It used to
the
be one
opportunity.
hour.
No, that was around the verse. What they did for around the verse and what they do for ISC are very different things. Um, I'm enjoying the Nazers, the Nazar, the Nexers experience. Hey, guys, is our audio more even now? Nazarus
I
turned his
really
down,
enjoyed the one
and
hour
I
ISPs,
upped the whole thing.
or the 1 hour around the
I did
verses.
too, but they were also very much lots of talking and speculation, whereas now ISC is we are actually going to show you
Yeah,
what
could
we're
you
working
imagine a
on.
1 hour of that?
I can't up the. Is there a way I can? Hold on. If I can.
Okay, so I'll keep going. So I'm trying to think what. So I am glad. I'm very happy that Luke
How's that?
Presley is going to be the one of the ones giving. Okay, go ahead. Talk a little bit.
Is my mic better now? I turned it up. I don't know why every time I restart my computer, it resets the input volume on my mic to 20, and then I have to remember to turn it up to 60.
No windows on screen, by the way.
Yeah, but it was here. So I'm
Okay.
hoping that's enough. I don't want to blow anyone's eardrums out, but that's
It
also
didn't
like
change on
it's
my end,
super.
so I have no idea. Because that's is that your other PC or is that the one in Discord?
This is the one that's in Discord. Um, yeah, and
Whoa!
mic
Slightly
check, mic
better, but
check.
Snatcher is still a bit louder. Okay.
Okay.
Is that
The
better, guys?
I'm in so, and I don't want to spoil it, but I'm interested in this the design brief because it talks about it's going to show how they go about doing the the essentially the design briefs for the mission like the mission feature team, the way they design missions. But it's also going, I think they're also going to talk about how they make these sorts of things systemic. And I if you remember
Does
the
it say
if you
that's going to make them systemic?
no, I think that that's going to because they have to make these things systemic. They can't just there will be some story missions, but they also have to make it so you have missions that um, are generated
Mm-hmm.
by the game, and it can't just be hauling and combat and bounty hunter missions.
I mean, aren't
Um,
box missions currently systemic?
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It is you have to have investigation missions have to also be systemic. And if you the investigation missions we have now are you go to rec and you find this, and they need to take that and dial it up to 11. And so I think this is going to include how they take the current investigation missions, utilize the backend systems that they're creating, as well as the other design elements that they're also making in order to make these investigation missions more dynamic and systemic. So that way they feel, as well as including story elements. So that way they feel kind of like the one where you have to go to, what's the destroyed
Kovlex?
cargo station?
Kovlex?
Kovlex Gundo. That mission, I've replayed that so many damn times. But they have to make it so that way missions like that are able to be not only made handcrafted, and handcrafted will give them a little bit more story and feel to them,
Yeah,
but also
if
make it
they
so that they're systemic
yeah,
in
if
more
they
than just
have the
the find
ability,
wreck, find body.
yeah, if they have the ability, or if they show the ability, like specifically show the ability to have the game generate a Kovlex mission. That is not just you're not going to Kovlex, you're going to Corée. You're not looking for data or data pads on a thing. What is it? The if it's not just like pull out the Kovlex and um insurance thing that you had to do and plop in different like two different things. If it is actually a systemic investigation where the entire path is completely different, like you actually have to like go onto a computer instead of just data pads strewn around the place, or you have to go talk to an NPC or something. If it's something like that is actually changes the function of the investigation, again, I will be shocked. If it's just go look for data pads, and if you miss the data pads, you'll have the bad outcome instead of the good outcome, then that's not different. That's just you record a bunch of more lines for this
Yeah.
thing to show up, maybe or not.
No, I agree. And CIG has a lot, has a big challenge ahead of them in order
Oh yeah,
to
no,
make things different,
making
but also separate
investigations.
themselves from everyone else.
I'm shocked that
Um,
investigations were the thing that, like, yeah, we're gonna do that one instead of doing anything. Because investigation, to make an investigation, and the entire game industry has failed so far at this, except for very, very few games. Um, a lot. So either you have games like Minecraft, okay, stupid open ending. Sure, you can investigate or you can explore, but there's like nothing after seeing it. Okay, there's just nothing there to quantify it. There are games like the Da Vinci Code, where you're on rails investigating, but on rails. You can't not do it. There are games in Assassin's Creed where you have to investigate, but there's map markers everywhere you have to go. So there's no actual functional investigation. You're handed the story, but you're investigating. And then there's stuff like LA Noire and Sherlock Holmes games. Those you actually have to put your brain in function to get the outcome. And Phoenix Wright turning at laws in some spots as well, because if you get wrong, there's actual functional outcome that is different. You have to put your brain into the game. And to make that in-depth kind of investigations into games, it's excessively difficult because you cannot hand the player anything. You can only give them seeds. You cannot sprout the seeds yourself. You cannot grow the seeds yourself. You have to give them seeds and know that they are going to fail more times than not.
so
And that
I'm
is excessively hard.
you can't see it because of my camera angle,
Mm-hmm.
but you're gonna guess what I'm doing. That was a line of pure cut Columbia hopium, or Afghani hopium, whatever. I don't care. I don't do drugs.
and the
But
reason the it being so hard and so lofty of a goal is why I don't think that that's in that presentation.
I think what they're going to be presenting on is combining the
Mm-hmm.
different elements of gameplay that they've been working on in order into investigation missions. So we talked about Bounty Hunter V2 last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm high on hopium right now because this is something. This panel is actually probably the one that I'm most interested in, because it is kind of vague. Like, look how short the description is, and they're just, it says the pitch process. But they have, if you've been listening to this podcast and listen, the gameplay elements and features that we've talked about, especially the ones that are in progress, you can imagine how they could incorporate those elements into investigation missions in order to make it incredibly interesting and dynamic, and not handhold, but as long as you know the basics of how to scan, how to hack, how to EVA and fly your ship, that sort of, those sorts of things, that integrated with, say, Bounty Hunter V2. So if you can imagine somebody committed a crime, blew up a ship. We showed you that presentation, um, and where Dragon, Tony Z showed us Dragon. Really, it's spelled dragon. Come on. He got into combat with that caterpillar around Yella. Well, imagine if he wasn't in range of a comm relay and it wasn't monitored, so no one knew that that a pirate had attacked that caterpillar. They only know that the caterpillar left, a outpost on Yella, and it never made it to its destination at, say, we don't know where its destination was, and so somewhere along the ways, something happened, and so your investigation has, you have to go back and pick up the breadcrumbs for where, what happened to that caterpillar. And if you're able to succeed in investigating and finding the wrecked caterpillar, finding out what happened to it, you find the black box that has the records that says, hey, we were attacked by this ship. Now that pirate who thinks he got away scot clean all of a sudden has a criminal record, and all of a sudden, he gets an alert and he's like, oh dang it, I've been wanted. How did they figure that out? Well, someone went, to the outpost, and they say, yeah, okay, they did leave the outpost. They were they said their destination was here. And so you plot that vector and you go up to orbit and you scan around, and okay, so you scan and you find some debris, and maybe like an ion trail, and it leads you to a vague area on the planet. The scanner reveals that, and then you're able to go down to the planet, fly around scanning, and then you find, a crashed caterpillar, and then you have to, navigate the crashed caterpillar. Maybe there's injured people that you can rescue. Maybe they're all dead. There's loot to find, and the black box is, encrypted, and or behind it's in a locked container. And in order to get it out, you have to hack into
I think
it.
black
Get the
boxes
black
can be
box out.
encrypted.
I don't
I
know.
think that's
I'm
like an
yeah.
international no,
Well,
because you
nowadays
need to be
I'm
able to
just
read it.
no. I mean, like it's behind a locked door. Like you can't just get to
Okay,
it with,
like
yeah.
because like if you get the black box, well, I need to take this to somebody who can actually read it. You should be allowed to jack in, read it.
Hmm.
Oh, that's who's done it. Then we can give that data over to the authorities,
I'm
and then it
just
spawns up like a
imagining
bounty hunter.
how I
Yeah.
would, if I was making this pitch,
Mm-hmm.
knowing what you and I both know about the things that we have investigated on this podcast. This is how I would pitch investigation missions, because it not only makes, it incorporates a lot of gameplay elements that they're working on into investigation missions. It makes it so that way they're different, and they can be easy in that, oh, okay, you pick up the trail right after you get back into orbit, or um, you don't find anything, and okay, now I have to travel all the way to Hurston, and anywhere along the way is where, they might have been attacked,
Yeah.
and then you have to go to Hurston and,
I
search
wonder.
Hurston, or those sorts of things can be adjusted dynamically. But it also creates these investigation missions that solve a problem for you with bounty hunting, in that bounty hunters can commit a crime, in unmonitored space, i.e., pyro, or even in Stanton, and they think they can get away with it scot clean,
Mm-hmm.
but it just means that, okay, now
Ooh.
you now you have they have gotten away. They have a head start on the bounty hunter, because the bounty hunter won't get the information about who to hunt until this
So
mission is completed
right,
successfully.
I just looked
Does
it
that make
up,
sense?
and black boxes are not allowed to be encrypted. to make sure that the data is available to whoever finds it.
Mm-hmm.
So could you imagine the perpetrator thinking, no, wait, I'll take the extra step. I'll fly down and either do it actually cleanly, energy weapons, kill the crew, clear the black box. Then it's just like, ah, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
But if you don't do both of those, or let's say, like, let's take this to the nth degree, you use a ballistic weapon and still take out the guards or the ship crew and clear the black box. They have bullets.
Yeah. And all
So
that
you
time,
have ballistics.
The pirate, and they either it's a derelict in space, or it's a derelict on the planet. Either way, the pirate is on a time crunch. In order to either clean up his mess or get his loot and get out, and that's their risk reward of, okay, do I run the risk of getting this crime stat? By not cleaning up the evidence and getting away, or do I run the risk of staying around here long enough and somebody comes along to look for this missing caterpillar and now they see me, Bob's your uncle. So that's if I was making this pitch, and that's why I did my big old line of pure white hopium. If I was making this pitch, knowing what we have read and talked about, that's how I would pitch these investigations, because that's what I'm hoping for, and that's something that they could do with what they're working on right now. But again, nothing in this specifically leads towards that, other than it's a new mission archetype that leaves combat and delivery behind for mindful deduction and increased storytelling.
If they can deliver on that, again, I'll be shocked.
Yeah. Well, I would do those. I do the investigation missions all the time anyway. I'm just looking for the investigation mission. I'm hoping for them to incorporate more of those elements where, oh, okay, you don't know exactly where the damn ship is. You have to go find it. But also, like, I want to loot the ship. I don't want to loot the people. I want there to be loot down there. I want to salvage the components on the ship. All that stuff. But that's more interaction with other gameplay elements. Beyond just the investigation part. But it's this web of gameplay elements that they're using, and they can cobble together them in different equations to generate investigation missions, salvage missions, rescue missions. Yeah, in space, no one can hear you investigate. Yeah. So that is my hopium for it. But like Nazareth said, this very well could just be something very limited. Given that it's Luke Presley, I don't recall Elliot Malby. If Nazareth said, have we ever seen him? Does that name ring a bell?
No.
Luke Presley doesn't work out though.
I actually,
if you
when you do your next one, I'm going to look up. He was
Elliot
Super
Maltby,
Massive
or
Games
Maltby.
before. I'm going to look up an SCL or an ISC with their names and like what
Luke Presley has
what
been
kind of stuff they talk
on
about.
SCL and ISC many times, and he's generally
Was he on there?
well spoken and very informed, and gives us good information.
No, okay, he was not. Okay, what was the panel about? I don't know. There was some gameplay panel, SCL, that I keep going back to. Anyway, I assume we're on to the next one then. Alrighty, what do we got next? Journey to 4.0, the underground, or the new underground.
The new hotness underground.
And okay, so fully negative. We're gonna go one above it, but to lay the groundwork, all we see is sand caves. Okay, that is the full negative. One step above that, let's read the description. When corporations, commerce, and caves collide, take your first look at the new, enormous reimagined of underground facilities and the new gameplay possibilities that will arrive with them. So it does say underground facilities. I believe they are somewhere. I read they were working on the underground facility different. What are they called? The different texture. What are they called? Tile set. The different tile set for them. I don't. That might have been an what was it called? Monthly report. That's the infiltrate defend mission. Underground facilities. Okay, so the tile on the roadmap says adding new underground facilities to the game, traversal areas, offering gameplay opportunities, and a corporate industrial environment. So that's what the underground facilities currently on the roadmap looks like, or says. So corporate industrial. I really hoping that means like art corp style and microtech style. So the industrial and then the high tech.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully. Let's see. Let's get back to the actual thing. I can't imagine this is too little. Actually, this is probably one of the ones that I expect the most new stuff in. It is just an art show. Seeing how Ian Leland starts as an art director is going to be doing it. So we're not going to get a whole bunch of this gameplay, that gameplay, this feature, that feature, because he's an art director. He will show us what they're going to look like. At the very most, he could probably be showing us a couple of proposed level designs that artists have worked out, not level designers, because that's a design, but art, like an art showcase about what they can be. So art on a new branch of underground facilities. Art. That's all I got. Really, it's art. Like there's no one there to give gameplay or give anything else. It's just an art director. Unless they're using Ian as just someone who talks,
He's an
because
art
they've done that
director, but
before.
the art directors do more than just the concept art.
Yeah, well,
And
yeah,
so so he would be
he's the
over.
director of art.
Yeah, he's an art director, but he would also be representative of a lot of the other teams working together. Um,
Uh,
the reason I find this one pretty interesting is
mhm.
because take a look at the enormous reimagining of underground facilities. I think the word enormous wasn't on accident. I think the underground facilities are going to be a lot bigger
So
than
you
what we
can take
have
that two
now.
different ways. You can take that as in they reimagined it in a large way, or there was a lot reimagined, or like
Yeah,
you're saying, they are enormous in themselves.
I think it's probably a bit of both in that they'll be because they the imagining. Oh no, it was this. Um,
Thank you, Turtle. We worked hard, or Tree worked hard on it.
Audio sounds great this time, guys. Thanks, Ganja Turtle. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's gosh, and it's like every single episode you have to spend like the first 5 or 10 minutes trying to get it at least
You
within
thought Paul was joking?
70, eighty
You
percent.
thought
No,
Paul was joking?
no. Um, so the description here for the thing on the progress tracker for underground facilities, adding new underground facilities to the game, traversable areas offering gameplay opportunities in corporate industrial environments. So corporate industrial environments gives us a hint um, about what their function would be. Um, but that along with the enormous reimagining, I think it's partly in that they will be bigger, because they are serving industrial needs. That they like maybe it'll be manufacturing, maybe it'll be refining stuff. By industrial, it could be any of those things, or it could be, um, you know, corporate industry as far as like with microtech, the tech stuff. A giant underground server farm.
Kind of like we
It
saw
could
in the
be
the microtech demo.
yeah. Well, bigger, but that's what I'm thinking with
Did
bigger in
you?
order to give you
They
more
went through
gameplay benefits.
like maybe 30% of that facility.
Yeah, yeah,
Like the
but
thing
like
was big.
if they show us more, it could be bigger. But the um, so they mention when corporations, the corporate industrial facilities, commerce,
Mhm.
and caverns collide. Take a look at the enormous reimagining of underground facilities and the new gameplay possibilities that will arrive with them. The other thing is offering gameplay opportunities. They said commerce, so I can imagine that with this reimagining, they'll be talking about not only delivery of goods and materials to these industrial facilities, but also taking things from them. Freight elevator goes to surface, gives you boxes, you take that finished product to somewhere, and vice versa. Um, the underground facility also infiltrate and defend mission. Underground facilities are the first place to benefit from the addition of spawn closets, which allow us the expansion of the suite of missions that take place there. Missions range from all-out assaults to situations where you may be able to complete objectives without the need to engage in combat at all, and include both lawful and unlawful versions. So infiltrate and defend. Um, I think the infiltrate part will come from the fact that they mentioned caverns because they're doing all the cave archetypes. And I think with this new reimagining, in order to, there will be ways to infiltrate these corporate facilities via caves. And I think that the this reimagining is going to show us part of the design and why things are being designed that way of the underground facilities that would be connected with caverns in order for you to infiltrate them, to steal information, um, you know, or attack them if you're doing it lawfully. And but I also think that this is the what's Nazaris. What's the name of the system that they're using to build stations? And um, we talked about it. It was on the
I don't
monthly
know if they have a
report.
name for the station one.
It's the procedural locations tool. Was it? That sounds right. It
That's
was.
one of the tools, yeah.
Yeah, and they mentioned it in reference to being able to build stations and be able to build stations like 80% of a station, be able to done, largely procedurally or super fast because there's talk about using it, one for locate for stations and the other one for outposts and settlements. I think that they are also going to use that tool for underground facilities as well as caverns in order to be able to generate these new, and larger and networked underground facilities um, in a much faster and more procedural way in order to, fill up the verse with them. And so I think that will be incorporated, uh, in the reimagining part. And then they'll talk about how, hey, we're building in these way for these gameplay possibilities. Oops. Dang it, wrong one.
Interesting.
We're going to bring this back over here.
And he does what now?
Yeah. But that's my thought on the underground facilities, and that's why I'm kind of excited about seeing them, is because the underground facilities are in progress right now. They had a big long sprint already from location concept art that lasted 6 months, while they're already being worked on and have been worked on by the EU sandbox teams since April of last year. So I think these are the people that have been working on the tool to build them, as well as the tool to build them, as well as incorporating the assets that we already have, as well as
Who made
new
the sand
assets
cave?
being made. And then, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's more downstream work to be added to these. Um, but this is something that they're working on right now. They've been working on for a while. They are well underway, and so I think they'll have a lot of good stuff to show off, as well as talking about the gameplay opportunities to go with them as they incorporate them. Again, adding pieces into the equation. Underground facility plus freight elevator plus quantum, equals delivery, not only delivery missions, but the inverse, the pickup missions in order to sustain the quantum economy. So you're not just taking things from stations and landing zones, but also underground facilities, above ground facilities, the whole shebang. Yeah, Ionic, there is a ton of potential, especially with the caves. Um, Yeah, and the caverns potentially being networked into them. Oh, okay, yeah, you have to infiltrate you can either attack this underground facility, which is heavily defended, or you can sneak your way in. Kind of like the Pyro mission, in order to steal this item or hack
Uh,
into it and get this information.
which sandbox
On
team was working on that?
it was EU Sandbox 2 was the larger sprint.
Okay, because EU Sandbox was also working on the cave, so that might have been cave work in there.
Well, that two separate sprints, but yeah, I mean they'd be if they are planning on having them connect in order to mix that gameplay, it would make sense for the sprints to coincide, but it's still a separate sprint.
Underground facilities in cities. That's a words. Could be cool too. Heck yeah, could be cool.
Ooh,
I
oh
think that
yeah.
won't happen until after the new city tech though.
hmm
That will
Imagine
probably be.
if ArtCore, instead of it's an underground facility out in the wilderness or something like that, it's an underground facility in ArtCore, and instead of infiltrating it via a cavern, you infiltrate it via sewers and the ventilation shafts going back into the
Mhm.
surface. That would be cool. That would be some. That would be some.
Honestly, I would love infiltrate missions that weren't sneak in and was just con in.
hmm
Like in the Microtech demo, they didn't sneak in; they walked in the front door.
Yeah. Hi. I
I'm just
belong
showing up for
here.
work.
I have a badge and a white
Yep.
coat. I look
Um.
official, so therefore I am.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've been rating the panels as we talk through them. I might change them at the end, but so far we have a rating of Planetary Pyro. I have 1 out of 10 because, like I said, I don't see how much interest they can do, except for just look at all the new up to date art we have. Anyway, the second panel, 3 out of 10, and then this one will be a 4 out of 10 because gameplay, new gameplay. But it is idea is holy crap words. But might just be art. I now
Yeah.
may change. I don't like that investigations is currently ranking lower than supposedly just art, so that may change. That might turn to a 4 out of 10 for the investigations. I think I'll do that now. Yeah, 4 out of 10 for the last two. So if you want to join in the rankings, either Tree or in chat, feel free to. Okay. So we on to the next one then.
I was using a 1 to 5 scale. Oh dang it! Now I have to
You
change
can
it.
use a 1 out of 5 scale. It's just different fractions. It's fine. I just,
Um,
but it 1 out of 10 just sounds way more negative than 1 out of 5.
I I'm an optimist until I'm not, and so until we see something or we get
Sure, for
the weight until the weighted information weighs more negative for me,
okay.
I
So
remain optimistic about things. So like we don't have a lot of information, so this is a lot of speculation based off of what we've read elsewhere, and so the stuff that we've
mhm,
read elsewhere makes me optimistic about these things,
yeah,
um,
makes sense.
especially given the things, how long have they been working on the underground stuff.
Yeah.
They've been working
So
on the caverns and the underground facilities for a long time. So
yes.
not this year but next year, I think is huge, and that would bring a lot more locations for gameplay.
hmm Not that we
Pyro
more
is just pretty for me, but it's
hmm
also the lore part is, so like this would be like a 6 out of 10 for me, and that is largely because of the I want lore confirmation. The Okay, this is the lore we have for Pyro. I have a burning desire to see what the updated lore actually says. I have a burning desire to know where the stations are, to know who the factions are. And I know we won't get that information, but at least to give me more about the planets and moons. So
hmm
that's why that's like a sick, it's just above the meh, you know, and that's only because of my,
Your
yeah,
5 is the meh.
yeah, five is meh, five is meh.
Okay.
Yeah,
My
it's almost like a pH balance,
yeah,
Um,
my meh is probably 1 or 2.
oh, okay. Um, See, I have to deal with pH for humans in medicine all the time, so that's the scale I think of it all at.
So what is your investigations out of 10?
Investigations is mainly just my curiosity because of how we just went over Bounty Hunter V2, and
Mhm.
I would really like to. It's also because I was high on hopium, and so I would say investigations is also a 6 for me because I'm very hopeful to see that these things become systemic and tie into the criminality system and the bounty hunter system. The underground is going to be a 7 for me, just because I love the tools, and I'm hoping that they show us off the tools of how they're making these and how they plan to make them fast. Just like with the stations, like we always thought, you and I always say we love tools. Well, I'm hoping that they will, because they've shown us how they use the tool to make stations, and I would like to see that with these in caves, with the underground facilities in caves. That would be enough for me. Let alone how they plan to incorporate gameplay into the building of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at 667.
Yes. So close. Anyway, Conrad said 0 for me. Personally, I don't care about the pyro system. That should mean you are a 10 out of 10 for pyro because you want it done and out of the way. I'm right there with you. I
Out of the way, move
don't
on to
care about
Castro.
the lawless side of the game. I do hulling. I log onto the game, I go to a station and say, give me everything you got, and go to another station and say, take everything I have. That's my gameplay loop, okay? Pyro means nothing to me, except for, ooh, maybe some riskier track so I can get paid when I say, take all this crap out of my cargo. Uh, like, I can't wait to get past Pyro, just because I'm ready to be past it. Like, my system is the other direction back in Terra. I do not care about Pyro being a big thing. I am ready for it to be done and gone. And I can just appreciate people, much like Tree, who's like, yes, Pyro! Good. Have your cake. That's fine. My cake will be much nicer when I eat it.
The
Because
pyro cake for me is simply that, it's practice for bigger and better things, but it's
Mhm.
also, like, I'm not gonna live in pyro. I'm a good boy.
Very few people are going to live in Pyro. Even people who are like,
Yeah,
yes, I'm going to live in Pyro. There's not a lot of real estate there. Not a lot of
but
people actually live
it's
in Pyro.
pyro will be a good location for me as the want to be in-game SAR medic to go rescue people.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
rescues in Stanton will be very boring. Rescues in Pyro will be much more interesting and challenging. But it's a like what's the name of the team from Cyberpunk? The
Idea.
uh, the 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 medics with all the guns in Cyberpunk. I can't remember the
It
name.
is technically free real estate, but you also, like, you don't get to own
Trauma
Pyro.
team. Yeah.
Ah.
Pyro is where Trauma Team will go and make their money, and that's what I
Mm-hmm.
want to. That's what I want to do is go into places like Pyro or other dangerous systems and be like, okay, let's get the hell out of here. Hurry, come on, come on, come on.
You
Run
don't,
away.
you don't get to own any land in Pyro because it's unincorporated. There is no governing body to say you own this land. So if you put down roots, anyone can just come in and blow it all up, and
Yeah.
no one's allowed to cry about it.
Plant your
Instant
flag. This is my land now.
other way.
Now it's not.
Well, not in Stanton. I would say in Castra, it's the other way. You can't put down roots. It's all owned already.
Pyro won't have good medical infrastructure. Um, but as far as going in and rescuing somebody, keeping them alive until you can get them back to a hospital, um, in Stanton, what have you, that will
Where's the
be
jump
the
point
medical gameplay.
in Stanton? You want to pull up the map on Stanton?
The where the Stanton to Pyro jump point is. Is
Yeah,
that what you're asking?
go through the jump point from Pyro or do near
Stanton.
Shader. Blizzard says.
So the Stanton Pyro jump point is actually the most interior of the jump points in Stanton.
Okay, so it's
It's
halfway between Microtech, or is that ArcCorp?
It's Arcor is over here, Crusader is here. It's in the green band. Most jump
Okay.
points are not in the green band. Most jump points are outside the green band. Because here's the Magnus jump point, here's the Terra jump point, way the hell out here.
Okay, so for some reason I thought it was behind Microtech. I don't know why. All right.
No, Microtech is over here. The Terra
Yeah,
jump
on the
point is
other
just
side.
outside of Microtech's orbit.
The good place. That's the good
But that's
place.
why the pirates come in here. Not only is it, not only is it, Stanton
Close to everything.
a place that offers a lot to pirate, but it is the jump point puts you right right in the middle of Stanton, whereas these other ones are farther out.
Hmm,
Yeah,
nice.
so it's convenient piracy. Uh,
Ooh, that's a great question. I wonder if the jump point is in game right now. Obviously not usable. If the art is technically there, that would be so interesting. I would like. There's a chance. There's definitely a chance. That would be like we've both seen me and Tree have seen the expedition they did to the sun to Stanton Star. Like it's work to get there on the current systems we have. And we can't get anywhere near like these jump point positions. That would be so interesting. It could be. Probably not, but it could be. All right, you want me to go on to the next one then?
yep, go for it.
All right, what do we got? Oh, this one. Journey to 4.0. We're changing. I mean, the need for multiple speeds. I'm just gonna read this out. I'm gonna try not do too negative on anything. There's a lot of people on this one, so the amount of information I feel like we're gonna get is very low because they're gonna start talking over each other and then correcting each other. Anyway, we all know how speed impacts combat, but now learn how master modes, initially developed for Squadron 42, will impact the flight experience for the persistent universe and better define ships' roles for. No, sorry, and better define ship roles for all vehicles in Star Citizen. That I don't know why you say ship and vehicles. Sure, I mean, don't you? Okay, better define the roles for all vehicles. I'll read it that way. So the people participating in this panel are David Coulson, lead vehicle programmer. So does the programming. Good. If he could tell us where two-wheeled vehicles is, do it. Richard Towell, lead gameplay designer, which is one of my favorite people to hear from, is designers. Ged Talbot, I'm going to read it as senior games designer. Games designer. Interesting. Lead game designer and senior games designer. That's a title. Yogi Collette, senior gameplay programmer 1. And Johnny Young, gameplay programmer 3. Very interesting. That is a very, like, hands dirty team like you got there. The negative I have about this, not too much. It's just we've been talking about the basics of how Star Citizen is going to have flight since 2.6. It's been like, how long has it been since we got the arena commander? It's been a while. And it seems like they keep talking about, oh, we need to change to this. We need to change to this. We're gonna do hover mode. We're not gonna do hover mode. We had SCM and cruise, and then we didn't, and they kind of merged it. And now we're like, now we need more speeds. Now we're gonna have like master mode. So let me guess, just master mode cruise and master mode combat. I don't know. It like the negative part about this is just how are we still talking about basic controls? On the plus side, like this does again, like this is more pie in the sky, less good. But anyway, maybe we're actually making progress on it. They sound like that since it's in Squadron, does sound like it's a more concrete approach. Um, I just hope they're done. I just hope they're done. I'm gonna do this a 3 out of 10 just because we've been talking about this for so many years. Just they're between two rocks, right? They want good gameplay for the player and good cinematics for the player watching. So player playing and player watching. The problem with that is they're not the same goal. They are the opposite goal. You cannot play Star Wars battles is the thing Chris keeps wanting. Is like that Star Wars battle look. You can't play that. That is scripted events. They're flight patterns, and like you have to have two teams with established rules of engagement. If you don't have those rules of engagement, you have Ares fighters against Gladii. This is why people have such a problem, because unless you have those rules of engagement, you get just shenanigans. And they're trying to like have their rules of engagement, but let players do anything. It doesn't work. So I'm hoping that these master modes and these better defined ship roles for vehicles, for all vehicles in Star Citizen, will start to kind of bunch up the what is it called, the balance of each ship, and have each ship role have little like islands of balance. So you have that disparity between a light fighter and a gunboat, and they actually like feasibly function differently.
Mm-hmm.
And they like make sense to take against one another. Like a fully crewed what's it called, constellation should definitely survive against a single Gladius. It should definitely survive. Given skill isn't even played. So assuming skill doesn't matter. But I have hope for this panel. I'm not looking forward to it, because it is going to probably be a very analytical panel. But I'm hoping for the outcome is what I got, and that is what I got.
The like you mentioned, there are 5 people on this panel, and I'm assuming that since there are 5 people, it will also be longer.
Mm-hmm.
Than the underground. I could see the underground being like a 15-20 minute panel, and this one
Mm-hmm.
being closer to an hour, just to give them
Well,
each,
the
because each.
underground one looks like a showcase, and this one is a hey guys, we're screwing this up again. Here's why
Well,
we're screwing it up again, and here's us trying to convince you that this is a better system.
I think that they've probably been working on this for Squadron 42 a long time and haven't
Mm-hmm.
talked about it, because developed. um the I'm going to actually rank this one low, just because I'm confused by the language the most, because it's the need for multiple speeds, but then they're talking about master modes, and we have heard like zilch about what master modes are. We have we have operator modes. We know about those, like missile operator mode, scanning mode, those sorts of things. But I can't recall hearing a damn thing about master modes, and so I don't know what to think about how master modes affect speed, and or multiple speeds. And so that's why I'm super confused, because they've been talking for years about about slowing down combat and bringing in the distances, at least for dogfighting. But that's all they've been referencing it towards, is dogfighting. Well, they're talking about these master modes and multiple speeds, and then and initially makes you think that they're talking about for the dogfighting experience, but then it mentions how it will impact the flight experience for the persistent universe and better define ship roles for all vehicles in Star Citizen. Where whenever they mention changes in combat speeds, it's always been about fighters. Really,
Mm-hmm.
it's always been about bringing dogfighting together. And so
Which,
the
for those in
language,
chat who haven't had a slow speed dogfight, you are definitely missing out. It is one of the most fun ways to dogfight is at lower speeds,
if
because you
you,
actually can slip in behind your opponent if you're both kind of agreeing to stay at a lower speed. Like you can bounce as soon as possible, but when you like actually trying to outmaneuver each other, it is such a fun experience.
that's why World War II and even World War One era dogfighters are so much fun, because you're going slow, and it is about maneuvering and energy, energy management, not energy as in like power, but like your energy, like the physics
Yeah, momentum. Yeah.
related to your momentum, inertia, all that. Yeah, I've always loved those sorts of dogfighter games. Never been good at them, but it is a much more fun
Yeah.
experience. But that's why, like, if I had to rate this one, I rate it a 4, just because I'm super confused about how
Lowest ranking one
when they
yet.
say modes, we've always heard about like missile operator mode, the operator modes,
Hmm.
scanning operator mode. Um, and so, okay, well, what the hell's a master mode? We know nothing about what a master mode is, or how it impacts speed, or how those master modes impact speed relative to all vehicles, not just fighters. And so, I'm hoping that's why that they brought this many people on board to talk about it, because I can't, you know, they've been beating around the bush with this and been kind of vague and non-committal about it, like you said, for years. And so they're hyping this up like it's the, I don't want to say savior, but like the, you know, we
I mean,
finally got it, and here's how we're going to do it. And, we've already developed it for Squadron 42, and here's how we're going to implement it in the PU. And it's like, okay, that's great. But the history of you guys adjusting speeds for combat and doing it just for dogfighters, it makes me kind of wary for define on how you're going to use it to define ship roles for all vehicles. Um, does that make sense?
mhm.
Yeah. So that is this is my heavy dose of skepticism mixed with, huh? Because
Yeah, I
the
can't find
master modes is
literally a
definitely a.
single thing about it. Master
Oh
modes,
yeah,
that
no,
is.
I looked it up. I literally typed in master mode Squadron 42 monthly report, and Google came up with a whole lot of not much. So
That's
um,
it.
I'm hopeful that it'll be enlightening and that they'll have something to show us, in order to illustrate rather than just five guys talking about it. But I'm going to be less cautiously optimistic about this one than I am investigations. So I'm going to put this at a 4.
Lowest ranking one yet by 2 points.
Mm-hmm. A whopping 2
Yeah,
points.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That I mean, that's a big 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just
Skeptium.
I really, really, really hope that this is finally concrete. We can stop.
If it was developed for Squadron 42, uh,
There's always the chance of delay. Quadrant.
this is fingers crossed of, well, they developed it for Squadron 42. We're this
It
close. I
better
don't think
work.
it's going to change a whole lot. It better work. Yeah, this
Yeah,
you
because it's
guys.
going to be torn apart the second it hits Star Citizen. So,
Yeah.
alrighty. Let's see what do we got. Okay, so this is actually probably one of my highest ranking ones.
Mm-hmm.
This should at least rank a 5 out of 10. Journey to 4.0 Lorville Redux.
That's
Welcome.
redo
What? No.
French.
Yes, whatever. Uh, we've come a long way since our first planetary landing zone. Those who are curious about that, look up the Star Citizen 3.0 social module. And here you'll get the first glimpse at how everything learned since then is being reapplied to this walled, polluted city. Yeah. Okay, the people we have on this are Eric Gagnon? Sure, we're gonna go with that. Principal concept artist. Ooh, concept art. Concept art is just sparkly, okay? Uh, I'm gonna go Maxim. Why
Mm-hmm.
are these names so foreign? These must be like UK guys. Or
Montreal, French
Montreal guys.
Canadians.
Yeah, French Canadian. Great. Maxim Gwendon. I'm just gonna go with it. And Ian Leland again. Oh, Maxim is lead environment artist. So this guy knows what's up with environments. And of course, Ian Leland is our assistant art director again. So yes, I'm gonna do this a 5. I'm gonna already do it a 5 out of 10. This is the new cities. This is not the Tony Z cities. And for those of you who haven't heard my rant about Tony Z cities, is Tony Z has a philosophy for cities that he has stated way back in like pre 2010 or somewhere before 2016. That he, or I think it was anyway, that he doesn't think players want to wander around a city to compare prices. Like,
I would love that. I would love just space in cities to just do stuff. I don't care if it has multiple shops selling the same thing, and in one place you get a better deal than another place. It's context. Like, cause sub outlet is maybe secondhand. Like some stuff they sell is secondhand, whereas you could go to I don't know any clothing shops. Other than that, because they really haven't done a lot. There's the one in Babbage. Forget the name of it though. It's like Arrow or something. Anyway, where you could like go up the street to to like the main street and find the same thing, but it's like MSRP there, so it's a bit higher. Tammany and Sons in Lorville, but that's like worker clothes. I guess. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. So let's say, like let's just have a down the street, like way down the street off the main street. And they have like some secondhand stuff, some like just budget stuff or knockoffs. And you can go on Main Street and you can get like the premium. It looks the same, functions the same, but it's more expensive. I would love that in a city. Montreal is how much gameplay can we stuff into anything? And on top of that gameplay, it's how just amazing can we make the environment? How much story can we bleed out of every bolt in it?
And big. They make things big.
Yeah, they don't make small things. And we are apparently
Apparelli.
Apparelli in Babbage. Thank you. Yes, that's
It's
the one I'm thinking
Italian.
of. So any of you who've seen the concept art for ArtCorp, the concept art for ArtCorp, know that the spaces are supposed to be much grander than we have. We have very tight spaces, especially the business district that we don't have in game. We haven't had in game yet. It is a very grand plaza. It is one of the. It's kind of the high end of ArtCorp. It's like one of the very few like uppity places in ArtCorp, and it is very grand. And the philosophies that would use to build the current ArtCorp would not work. So I am very much looking forward to exactly what we're going to. So we're going to be seeing a lot of art. They're probably going to be showing us around the internals of buildings. Because Lorville is the first that will be getting the inside of buildings applied to them. And also, we're going to get a new kind of feel of what it means to be Lorville. It probably will get a lot more oppressive, just in general. Because, like they mentioned, the walled part specifically, and polluted. So I imagine those two things will be eccentrified? I don't know if that's a word. But they will be pointing those out much more. And I'm hoping, this is just on top of everything, I'm hoping that they also like give us a glimpse of how they're going to move forward, and if they're going to move forward out of system or continue to redo the in-system ones. Especially like what happens to ArtCorp Point 2, ArtCorp V2,
Yes.
or V3 technically. And it's just ArtCorp, Hurston, Babbage, right? Yeah, we don't need a redo on Crusader. They just need internals. So yeah, that's what I got for that one. That's probably like the one I'm looking forward to most. Even though it's gonna have like again, it's going to be another like could have been a sprint report.
Yeah, I think we will also get sprint reports on these things. I don't believe in mutual exclusivity in any of this, but I like as they get farther along, and especially incorporating more details. But like you said, the aesthetic of Lorville is cool, especially because it's even more oppressive in the lore than what we see in game. And so I hope that they dial it up to 11 because this is being made by the sandbox teams. Actually here.
Yeah, no longer tech people trying to make pretty vistas.
We're gonna pull it up.
Ba-dum-bum-bum-ba-dum. And I'm gonna see if we can pull up a link for the art for it.
So rework the Lorville skyline to better fit the scale of the city and its distinctive buildings. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do with the buildings of the skyline in order to make them more Lorville, and also the city itself is supposed to be getting bigger in order to, because right now it's small for what it's actually supposed to be. It's not scaled appropriately, and it's being made by Montreal, the Montreal Sandbox One team. So when they make things, they make them big. Um, the the and the other thing is this is the first city, that they're reworking Lorville. And it says rework the Lorville skyline. I think that we're probably going to get an update to the not skyline part of it as well. Um, some polish, maybe some additions. But this is, the first city that Montreal is doing. The first city being made by the sandbox teams in this way. And so they did talk recently about going back and updating ArtCore and making ArtCore actually what it's supposed to be like. It isn't supposed to be an ecumenopolis. It's supposed to be a planet with massive cities, but there's mountains and oceans as well.
And that will
But the
come
cities
much
will
more
be
into
massive.
play
Yeah, they just
when
didn't have
we
the
start
tech to make the procedural city stop. It just
Yeah.
starts here. It goes
Um,
around the whole planet.
but the difference between ArtCorp now and ArtCorp what's supposed to be will come into play a lot more when we start talking about Synth World.
Mm-hmm.
Because we need to define what ArtCorp is, and it's not an iron ball, because Synth World is an iron ball.
Yeah. But it's okay. Where the Montreal is going to show us, and really, I think we're going to be getting mostly concept art and white box, white box into gray box. Can you look up the monthly report and see where they were? Because they were talking about it. I think they were saying they had finished the white box recently. I think it was in the last monthly report, but I think it's going to be mostly concept art for what they have in mind, what they're working on, and how that's transitioned into white box and what that's going to look like. But it's also, hey, this is what we're doing for Lorville. So imagine what they can do for ArtCore, and it will also better inform us to what landing zone cities are going to be like in the future. Because they are going to be taking design elements as far as not like art design.
Is in gray box as of August.
Say that one more time.
Is in gray box.
It's in gray box. Cool. Yeah. So
And
gray
this
box, there's
was August,
a lot to see in gray box. So I imagine we'll see a lot of gray box. With the concept art next to it, be like, hey, this is how it's looking. But they did a good job with New Babbage. New Babbage is a pretty dang great city, and I think they're going to take some of that inspiration and then give it the oppressive Lorville treatment. But then it's okay. Again, this is Montreal. How do they build cities and do it in a way that is bigger and faster and incorporates the new gameplay elements? And that's what I'm hoping that they will also allude to, at least in some way, because with Lorville, there are supposed to be secret smuggling locations, places where you can go in order to infiltrate Lorville, in order to, either infiltrate in or out. Yeah, and so I'm hoping that they will show us that. Okay, this is or early, maybe not show you where they are, but okay, this is how these locations are going to work or something, or okay, you have to sneak in through these caverns that are, I don't know, below the city and connect to the sewers. But there's a whole lot of ways that they can go with it, but it's not so much what it shows us for Lorville, but what it shows us for the future for landing zones coming up.
Yeah, what's the new normal?
Yeah, what is the new normal for the next several systems with landing zones that they develop, i.e. Sherman, a giant city, built in the monumentalist style on the side of a mountain, on Cascom. So that's my hope for it. That's why I put it as a 7, because it's the Montreal team, and everything the Montreal team touches is gold. And so I'm hoping that Lorville will be the same way. Gold covered in pollution, and you know,
I mean, their CBD style has gold in it, so
oh man, everybody running wild with the synths in chat.
yeah. So Comtac says
Synths aren't
Synth
people. They
World.
don't have rights. Okay, we
How dare you? Comtac says Synth World where synths can live free of persecution from the Brotherhood. Unfortunately, not. Synths in Star Citizen are one of the most persecuted things ever. Every time they've tried some event has happened around them where lots of people have died or disappeared.
well, AI.
So they are super oppressive of uh, artificial intelligence. Super oppressive. If Data showed up, he would be dismantled and vaporized in seconds. And then Icon Forest says, where all the synthesizers are located. Lots of music made there. JK, I'll see myself out. Honestly, though, like, I love synth music, like most synth music. And, like, ArtCorp is actually pretty big on synth music. And we've heard of different... I think ArtCorp actually has somewhere in lore an actual musical artist somewhere on it. Like, actually in lore. I know they've talked about different bands and things. Like there's a rock band that has like the t-shirts we find at Grimhex. As a lot of
Yeah.
those are
There's a
rock
lot
band
of
t-shirts.
mention of different music styles in the lore from different locations. Like Saisei has K-pop or something like that, or it's like K-pop, because K-pop is Korea pop, so they have the Star Citizen version of that on Saisei.
It's Sai's on where?
It's a wait.
I guarantee not ArtCorp, Terra will have classical. They are the uppity, like,
Saisei
this
is
is
in
like
Centauri.
Centauri. One of my favorite names. Centauri just sounds cool.
So Saisei is the planet. Oops. Oh dear. Nope. Wrong button.
All the wrong buttons. Like, obviously, like, different... Like, I can't wait to hear, like, Banu music. I feel like Banu music will be very, like, thick. Like, heavy. I don't know why. I just imagine they're kind of like a more, like, horn-based music. And this is without any context. It's just, like, from the art, what I would imagine their sound be like. And then Xi'an music being very, like, clicky. Yeah, like very like taps and clicks and things like that. I would imagine that, and then Van Duel music, I would imagine be very aggressive.
Ooh.
Like they are kind of like, huh?
Oh, I was just reading Cromtac's comment. Art is very Blade Runner. Hurston is Dune. House Harkonnen, Crusader, Star Wars, Microtech, Star Trek. Yeah. Oh man.
I mean, that's not very far off, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually pretty.
I think Terra would be more Star Trek. Microtech, Star Trek ship. Terra, Star Trek Earth.
Let's move on to power play and wrap up the predictions, because we are almost 2 hours in already, and we still have the spectrum.
They're loving this, right?
It is fun, but I'm already out of beer.
Yeah, I've moved on to one of the worst energy drinks I've ever tried. I'm just trying to finish it because I don't want to throw it out. All right, Journey to 4.0 Power Play. I don't know why we keep doing voices. Anyway, how the upcoming resource management system will change life in the verse as we know it. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it, not as we know it, not as we know it. From combat to player homesteading. Yes. And allow for true multi-crew gameplay. To make all those single players out there really upset.
and the rest of us really hopeful to find friends. All right. So resource management is like it's one of like the big things. People like it's one of the things a lot of people are sleeping on.
Resource
And
management has been worked on since before the start of the progress tracker.
dun,
The
dun,
sprint
dun,
begins
dun.
in Q1 2021. If it
Resource
goes-
management has been worked on since ships were invented, because this also has to do with the power triangle.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to mention it in my scanner anomaly because that, like,
Mhm.
my scanner anomaly goes back several years before that, and they were already talking about it and working on it and concepting.
Yeah, we actually have images of the same post
Yeah.
in both of our scanner anomalies, which I kind of forgot we had.
Oh dear.
So I'm very excited for this one. Would I rank it the highest? Probably. It does say homesteading and player housing, and it's like it's a form of building, and I'm a sandbox builder player for like most of my games. Oh, I forgot the people. Dan Truffin, assistant design director for the Persistent Universe content. That is a very long title, sir. But it has design and design director or assistant design director is fine, whatever. Design director for Persistent Universe content, so that's amazing. And then Thorsten Leman, I'm going to go with Leman. Senior system designer. So pretty beefy tasks for both of you guys. But power resource management or resource management is one of the core systems that will be base gameplay for all of Star Citizen. So what you learn in your ship can be attributed to a space station or an outpost. So if you learn how to shut off a system or how to shut off a ship without pushing the off button, you'll realize how to do that for stations and for outposts or gravity generators. So anything that basically is component based or is something that is not the whole of the ship or outpost will feed into the resources. So if it's a thruster, it has heat and needs power or needs fuel. So those two things are two different resources, fuel and heat. For power plants, you need power and fuel, I think. Anyway, gravity generators need power. So everything in here, and they're all going to have virtual mapped out pipes. There won't be physical mapped out pipes, but the virtual pipes will be mapped out. So you can disrupt them. And it's just connecting outposts, like they had mentioned it on the ISC last ISC, I believe, maybe 2 ago. Refineries are going to be buildings that you can place or build, and you'll be able to like pipe them up, so you can mine on one side of your outpost, put that mining stuff into silos or holding tanks, depending on if it's a liquid or solid resource, and then pipe that into your refinery to refine, and then have a loading dock right there with some landing pads, so you have an entire loop of mining, storage, refining, storage, shipping. That's all the resource manager's job. That is basically it's the resource version of crafting. So the only thing we don't have in the entire system right now is the action of crafting. The resource manager will go all the way from just like hit on your ship and it powers up your ship to the entire resources you mine and things. So it's a very large system. Specifically power, I imagine they'll be talking much lower to the ground. Just power, fuel, heat, stuff like that. We did see a little bit of it in the CitizenCon, not CitizenCon, the Squadron 42 Vertical Slice, where you had to look around for the power plant, battery, whatever it was, and then plug that in, the lights came on. This is the system that's going to actually do that. But yeah, I'm super psyched for this one. Let's see, that's power play. Yeah, I'll do it a 5. I'll do a cautious 5. So same as Lorville Redux. Yeah. Okay, what you got?
So, resource management is super interesting and incredibly important for how we play with our ships, like you just talked about, how we multi-crew gameplay and all the resources that your ships use, but it's so much more than that, and that's why this is an 8 for me, because we've seen Dan Truffin. Dan Truffin's the guy who did the ISC in 2020 with the mock-up of the Hammerhead and the resource management system and the relay system. That was just for power. But that's the second part of this description for the deliverable. It will also unlock engineering station gameplay for ships, letting players manage power, CPU, fuel, shields, coolant, etc. And so you'll have to direct these resources to where you need them to go in order to, give components the resources they need in order to perform certain tasks, or do the things that they do. And I'll actually talk a little bit about that in my scanner anomaly. But the first part of that deliverable description is this system will handle resources for stations, settlements, cities, and all other locations. Resource management is going to be the driver of the quantum economy. So when the quantum economy tells you that this location, needs this, and this in order to do its thing, it's just like saying a power plant requires fuel, and battery power to start up, or the quantum drive requires coolant to stay cool, and power in order to create a quantum field. Well, all the locations in order to do things, whether it's hey, a power plant to keep the damn city running, or you need these resources in order to produce these items, which can then be shipped to somewhere else where they are demanded, et cetera, et cetera. That is driven by resource management. Those are resources that are managed within all these different locations, and that's what will drive the economic part of the quantum simulation. So that's why this is so super important, because the resource management is what is it's this system that will be tied into what they're working on for quantum by the systemic services and tools team, in order to allow us to actually start having the quantum simulation dictate pricing for commodities, and thus generating the hauling missions to take them where they need to go for commodities, and then also taking items where they need to go to be sold to end consumer. So when people ask, Tony Z, hey, when are we going to start seeing the quantum economy affecting more than repair and refuel? This plus what they're working on for, from systemic services and tools, that there are two pieces of the equation to give us that systemic gameplay. But it also it's a system. And you're just changing inputs and putting it into inputs and outputs and putting it into ships for engineering gameplay, and so it will impact the game itself as far as the simulation, but it'll also impact the way we interact with our ships more than anything else to date, because this is true multi-crew gameplay. Along with the relay system and repair, replacement of components. This is the next big step, and probably the biggest step on the way to time to disable versus time to kill. But it also will allow for a lot more specialization within your ships in order to get the most out of them, in order to do things, especially in quantum travel. We'll get onto that more. So that's why this to me is an 11, or not 11, an 8, because I am very hopeful that they will have that they'll have more to show us, and that it's far enough along that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that this isn't just, oh well, this goes out to here, and it's going to go on for another flipping year after that. I'm hoping that the update that they give us will be like, oh, okay, this is something we're going to see in the next year for ships as well as locations.
I highly doubt it's going beyond 2023. Highly doubt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it will, but the core functionality will be in 2020.
It will be
They'll add
in
more things to
2023.
it. Yeah. yeah, the core functionality, the bulk of it is something that I will see us having in 2023. I'm hopeful of, and I'm hoping that they do a good way of doing a good job of showing off this work, not only for the ships, but because um, I think that they'll use homesteads to demo how resource management works there. But I
Mhm.
don't know, the thing that I'm hoping, and I don't think we're going to get, is how resource management will impact the quantum economy. You know,
I
because
imagine
it
they'll be
says
doing a ship
stations,
and
settlements, cities, and all of the
yeah,
locations.
I imagine they'll be doing a ship and a homestead
Yeah,
to show you, hey, it's the same ship. Look what it can do in these two different scenarios. Now imagine
yeah.
this times 1,000.
hmm Yeah, it's the scaling it up to a city or a station is what I want to
Heck,
see, and
they
I'm
might
not
do a
sure we're going to
Lorville.
get
Like,
that.
hey, you know that resource management we're just playing with the little homestead? This is
That's what I was
Lorville.
hoping for. That's my pie in the sky hope. I just don't know
Yeah,
if I'm gonna get it.
yeah.
So that's why
That
I
makes sense.
gave it an 8. Because even if it's just showing off resource management for a homestead and like the because I had refineries and fuel like resource storage
Mhm.
things for the other buildings infrastructure, or the solar panels,
Yeah.
that stuff will be super cool. Seeing it in ships and super cool. It's the large scale. Okay, you know, how does this affect the simulation? That is also a burning curiosity of mine, and I don't think we're going to get that with this aspect of it.
All right. So on to the last one. Talking ship 2952. John Crew, vehicle director. Ben Curtis, vehicle art director. Paul Jones, art director. So we got vehicle director, vehicle art director, and all art director. Um, so our annual presentation from the ship teams discovered the latest vehicles throughout the pipeline, from concept to newly flyable, and a new twist to this year's voting on new ships to come. This is like was it pork and beans or whatever it is? This is like a staple. Not pork and beans or pork and potatoes, beef and I don't know. This is not like groundbreaking anything. It's just like obvious if this is going to be here. Um. So like nice to see it still here. I don't think this should ever stop being here. Um. I do hope this year that they're like, hey, we've given you like tiny ships for like the past 2 years, 3 years. Here's another big one. I want another big one again. Even if it's just a concept, I'll take a concept for another big ship. The last big ship we had, I'm pretty sure, was the Drake one, the Kraken. I'm pretty sure that was the last big one we had. So I'm ready for another big one. I think that was the last one. Let me double check that. But it's obviously there's gonna be a new flyable ship with this presentation. Um, that's kind of what they do every year. Um, I imagine we'll also see. I mean, I imagine it's gonna be like a ship sprint report. So what was this segment called? Um, what was the segment called, Trey?
Oh, the one for ships where they
Ship shape. Ship
back,
shape.
yeah, ship shape.
I imagine it's gonna be just like last year, a kind of like big ship shape. We're gonna get looking on where the Bando merchantman is currently. Corsair, if it's not done, we'll see that. Maybe even flying around. Um, Links may be there. They're gonna show off. I hope they show not just whatever ship's coming out with that talk, but also like, hey, here's a couple of their concepts that were like in production. So some of the unannounced ships that are in production, that we don't know about. Oh, well, obviously we don't know. Not just the one. So let's see. Let me go back. So we got the
I have it up
Legionnaire,
on
the
the screen.
Expanse. Those are both small ones. The Odyssey. I'll call that a medium ship. I'm not calling that a big ship. Liberator. I'm also calling that a medium. The Rylan. I'm also calling a medium. Okay, so the Perseus, I guess, gets to that little big area. Uh, Nautilus is really on that cusp of medium as well, or not medium, but the cusp of large. And then the Kraken. Yeah. So the first real big ship we had was the Kraken. So I'm ready for another big guy. Um, I don't know. I want big ships. Like ships that you can not just have, not just do a thing, but just be on for a while. To have time between the aft and stern that takes you a second to traverse. Like I understand, like not many people have those, and they don't really add to the average gameplay. But for those who achieve them, they're really gonna be really good. And for not just orgs, but just friends group that have a Kraken, it's gonna be so much fun to just like have a floating little base. It's so I want like the Kraken flavor or the Kraken in other flavors, especially a RSI flavor or a uh what was it Misk flavor, and the Idris is the each flavor, so it can have fun. And I don't really care to see a Kraken Consolidated Outland flavor because they have other. They need to build out that before they're giving us big ships in that flavor. As it is, your wish is my command, Sir Pegasus. Absolutely, the Pegasus.
That's just we
Oh, the
missed
Pegasus.
our big old long discussion about the Pegasus in my Discord earlier. It was
Oh,
in
did
Paul's too.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh
Actually,
man.
yeah, Blizzrad put in a couple links. You've probably seen them, but he did put some things in the which channel did it? He's been helping me organize things. It's
Let's
in
see.
the
Where would
SC
I
Leaks and
rank it though?
Spoilers channel.
Let's see. I have scoured the internet wide and far. I see leaks and spoilers. What? I don't see anything in there.
Oh,
I'm not allowed. I don't have permission. So no. Um. But yeah, I have been here and there and everywhere looking for um for Pegasus stuff. And because the only thing we have is the announcement post. I see that.
you should. Okay,
Um,
so you saw me type that thing. Okay, so
yeah.
you can't see the previous posts, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
So I like the Pegasus is possibly like it may be my perfect ship, assuming like the Pegasus in my head is the Pegasus they have on the paper. Because it's not a like on the one hand you have the Hull E, on the other hand you have a Pegasus, the ship for shipping stuff and the ship for shipping ships. Like it is the carrier, right? It's not a like um it's not a packaged ship like they had in some of the old concepts because I don't think they're actually gonna do that. They might still, but the way you ship ships is you put them in a carrier and you bring them over, and you then get them out of there onto whatever landing area. So I imagine the Pegasus or something like it will be there for shipping ships. Um, and people keep calling the what's it? The not Legionnaire. What's the ferry ship? Uh,
Liberator.
Liberator. Um, yes. People keep calling the Liberator the ship for shipping ships, except you don't ship ships that in that quantity. Like that's a ship. That's not ships.
The Liberator is small scale, and it
Yes.
literally says
But
that in the description on the comlink for it.
hmm
But it is a way to do it. Is it a way for you to ship your own ships, or to move other people's ships in small scale,
I would call
not
it
just
move
large
ships,
scale?
not ship ships. That's me personally. Is what I would call it.
I
Is
mean,
a ship
you
for
could,
moving ships.
if somebody contracts you to say, okay, I need you to move these 3 fighters from here to
hmm
here. You know,
But when I think
that
of
is
like the specific word shipping, I don't think of a or two. I think
yeah.
of you're contracted to get X dozen of ships from A to B.
It's not like moving thousands of cars from Japan made by Toyota or whoever to
hmm
so and so.
Yeah, I just yeah. So circling back to the actual topic we were talking about. Once I find the page
Nazareth,
again.
are you watching the stream? Can you see what I have up on the screen?
Yes, again.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you because I think we're going to get a concept and a straight to flyable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that this is going to be our straight to flyable.
Makes sense.
This one right, this unannounced right here. What do you think it will be? What do you think our unannounced straight to flyable is going to be?
Oh, jeez. I mean, they gave us the curveball, the 400i last year, because this
Yeah.
like it was the origin was it the origin cutlass. That they said was the origin constellation. Ha! No, we're not. No, Blizzard down. No, bad. No more origin ships. And if we get an origin ship, it better be above the 600. That's all. Like, could you imagine? Could you imagine a 1080? Could you imagine an origin 1080?
It's the big red boat. You know, it's a yeah.
Look,
It's
I
not a
want to
yacht,
see
it's a
something
cruise ship.
above. I want to see something above the 890 eventually. They're saying small vehicle, medium salvage. What do I think it's gonna be? Ooh, that's a great question. So they want to. So all new concepts are to do with gameplay that is within sight. So they're not releasing any ships that aren't within sight. At least gameplay that's in sight. Origin LHD. What kind of gameplay is in sight? Not necessarily upon us, but in sight. Oh wait, no, you were asking the releasing one. Well, I don't think it's gonna be Origin because we just got an Origin ship. We're already getting the 2 Drake ships, so I don't think it's gonna be Drake. We're about to get the Misk Hull C, and they just delayed the Hull B and E. I think those are the 2. If I'm hoping an RSI something, how long was the concept for it?
So this one, the concept art started at the beginning of August last year. It was in concept for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.5 months of concept art. So that's concept plus white box.
Okay, and it's not one we know about. Another
Yeah,
Banu,
it
maybe?
was.
Oh, God, I hope not. That is so possible, but God, I hope not. That's so darn possible because they're already working with the Banu style.
Ooh, that's a
Okay,
good
who's
point.
doing the Banu? Who's doing the Banu and what team's doing this?
Well, so that's the thing is like both the vehicle content teams, they usually like one
Yeah,
will
but
be
there's
the
one
lead and
predominant one helping.
yeah. So the
EUV.
predominant would be EUVC.
Okay, so is EUVC the one working on the BMM?
Uh,
Middle click, open a new tab. I really hope it's not a Banu. I
it
really hope.
is. They are the predominant team working on the BMM.
Sad. You might be right. Who said that?
That is a very good prediction. I hadn't thought of that at all. Yeah.
It's a very good prediction. That is so possible that it's a smaller than BMM ship for the Banu. So constellation size Banu ship. That's very darn possible. I really hope not. So what I'd like
It could be a
is
small Banu trader.
a small Banu trader. Well,
the
I
Banu
doubt it'd be a
merc-
trader. I highly doubt
Yeah.
it'd be a trader. It'd be like a
Well,
it'd be the
for a straight to flyable, it would have to be something usable. Yeah.
a Banu cutlass.
Mm-hmm.
What I would hope is the RSI, whatever's right, like the RSI right, whatever's right above, the constellation, whoever sits
Okay.
there.
So that would be like probably large. If we say the constellation is sort of a medium sized
The
ship.
constellation, whatever is the not explorer Carrick kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Whatever is in there. That would be my hope. But that was based on they haven't done an RSI ship, but they're working with Banu. Ooh, what ships are actually being? I could spend the rest of the stream on this. I really could.
We don't have to do
Did
that.
I rate? I did not rate talking ships. So let's move on to that first. Talking ships. It's a staple. I'm not gonna give it a higher rating than other stuff I'm actually looking forward to that's new. So it's gonna have to cap out at 5. So I guess we give it a 5. I'm glad it's here. But it's not super shiny. I have hope for it, so I'm giving it a 6. So it's the highest ranking thing I have right now. Okay, so it's your go. What do you got on talking ship?
So they're going to show us the vehicles that are in the pipeline. So they'll give us an update on the Banu Merchantman, the work on that. I don't think they'll show us the Corsair again because it's about to release. I think they'll show us the Argo SRV as it progresses through Gray Box and into the art stage, the Gray Box and final art stage. So we'll see that. And what are the other ships in production?
Hull C.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to give us an update on the Hull C because I think it's going to release it. I don't think they're going to give us something because the Hull C is literally probably just minute details at this point that they're working on.
Where is the BMM? I lost it.
Argo SRV, Banu Merchantman. I don't think they're going to show us the Hull C just because it's probably minute details at this point. And is there anything from the U.S. team?
We are kind of out of release ships right now.
Yeah,
known
the
ships.
unannounced.
Kind of had known ships. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there are 3 unannounced vehicles from art and design. So 3 concepts.
Yeah.
Getting
I don't
done.
think they're going to show us anything. I think we're going to get a unannounced concept.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to get the unannounced straight to flyable. After they show us the SRV and the Banu Merchantman in production, they might give us a tidbit on the Hull C and the Corsair, but probably not much because that's really those ships are the ones that are in production. That's literally it. Besides the unannounced ships, but for unannounced that's in production, we have this one that they talked about was like in like final art. You know, the polishing. I forget what they said in the monthly report last week. You know, for August, but it's
more large.
It's done, and it's probably pretty sizable because it's been in production. You know, even though this is part time, it's been in production for essentially 9 months of actual production, coinciding with this is the actual white box going into gray box. This is turning gray box into art and then adding in all the other things. So this will be our straight to flyable. It's definitely a multi-crew ship. Has an interior. Because they are working on Argo, they just released the raft, then started on the SRV. I think this is also going to be an Argo ship, and I think it's going to be an Argo medium salvager because Argo has the medium miner. They have a sort of medium hauler. I think they're going to give us a medium salvager as well because it will be usable, right away for doing the hull stripping and eventually hull munching next year. I'm assuming next year for hull munching. That's my bet. So that's what my bet is. And Argo's super popular, and so I think it would probably, and with gameplay coming for it, in the next 2 patches, I think it would sell well. But as for concepts, I think there's a potential that we'll get a small unannounced concept. Let's see. Could be this. Could be the unannounced.
There are
concept.
3 under VCEU. There are 3 ships or 3 vehicles. It says all around the 30-week mark. All around like the around the same time. They're all getting done October, November. They're all around 30 weeks. The spread of developers is kind of not the same because the first one has 5 on art, 1 on design. Second one has 2 on art, 1 on design, and then the last one has 3 on art, 3 on design. But they're oddly similar. Like they're like
Let's see.
very oddly similar. It's the
I
the
think
last
there's
yeah, it's within the last 5 top. Yeah, the last 5 before before the last 2, the last 3 before that. They're weirdly similar.
oh, okay, so this is the one I was just looking at. See, I think this is like the only one that isn't going into production. Well, that would be close.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Uh,
that this would be the small concept, and it's probably a variant. But it's the reason I'm very hopeful is because of this one. And Blizzard and I talked about this. I'm losing my mind with hope because this one went into concept art with 4 concept artists working full time on it back in early
Oh.
February 2022.
that is it.
And it continues in concept art until mid-February 2023.
And then it goes straight to production.
And then goes straight into production.
Ooh.
So this has I'm betting money that this is a capital ship, because
That goes into production.
that goes into production, and obviously it'll be in production for a long time. But like you're talking about, we need a big ship. I think this is a big ship.
I think that is the ship. I think that is the ship that they're going to like, okay, we've been working on this over here, that over there, that over there, and that over there.
Mhm.
Everything we've worked on for the past 5 years comes to this ship.
Yeah.
Like,
They're talking in chat about a Banu salvager. I think either a medium Argo or medium Banu salvager.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think it's going to be a salvage ship. I think it'll be medium in size in either Banu or Argo, and I think Banu would be kind of fun. The only thing is, I don't know if they could get a medium Banu salvager ship done in that amount of time, given that we have so little to go on for the Banu style. Even though they're working on the merchantman, they're not that far along on it. So
a
that's
point
the only
against
thing to consider.
Banu. A point against it being a Banu. Normally, always. Let's go always. They always, when they're doing we're working on the ship to we're working on a similar ship, they always the exact same team do it.
Yeah.
So if the Banu merchantman's not done, that's probably a good indicator that we're not getting another Banu, because it would be the same team. They're already used to working with the materials and the shape language. They're not ready to move on to a new ship. So that's a big point against it.
Mm-hmm.
Like a really big point against it. I hadn't thought of.
So for
big
reference,
Orion. No. So for Raiden, Jake, the guy who manages the roadmap, has said that unannounced stuff is stuff that has never been said anywhere ever.
Yeah, Jake and Jared have both confirmed that if it is unannounced, it is because they have not announced it at all. It isn't we have announced this and we're not going to tell you that we're working on it. It is they have not told us at all about it.
Yeah, if the Orion or the Endeavor, and they're not working on the Endeavor ever, if any of those started work or had work, it will be listed as Endeavor or Orion. John Crew hates the Endeavor. It'll be the last ship over his dead body that's worked on, which is fine, because the longer it stays out, the better it will be. It still will be a ship, but
for reference, this unannounced concept ship, see, because this is so long, it's 54 weeks of concept with 2 concept artists working on it. Whoops, dang it, that's not what I meant to do. Yeah, 54 weeks, 2 artists working on it. For reference, the Banu Merchantman reconcept phase was 58 weeks with 2 artists, but it was part-time. And the Misk Odyssey was 27 weeks with 1 artist. So essentially,
there's so much ship though.
Yeah, that's double the artists, double the time. So essentially, it's likely to be a capital ship.
I assume the Kraken's not on the list because it was too old.
What? What do you mean?
The Kraken?
What about it? No,
I assume
it's
it's not
not
on
on.
the roadmap.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you rate the ship panel with all of our
I've not done
theories and
that.
hopium passing around?
Yeah, but I think the we're gonna get a medium salvager, either more likely Argo, just because Argo is industrial, but potentially Banu. Um, I think we're going to get a small.
Does the production coincide with the SRV finishing?
What about the SRV? Oh, the SRV isn't going to be done for a while.
Because like we just said, it's probably the Kraken's not a real ship though. It's just a toy for pirate. Look up the cargo numbers on that thing. It is not a toy. The cargo number, like the Kraken, is the perfect armor transport for medium quantities of anything. Not the best for small quantities, but medium quantities of stuff. So when you need to get a good amount through hostile territory or into sketchy territory, it would be a great ship to lead or to be your dedicated humanitarian ship.
I've always
'Cause it's
imagined the Kraken is civilian armored, think of the convoys going through the Atlantic during World War II,
Mhm.
and the Kraken would be like a larger, the Kraken being an escort carrier. They used escort carriers in the Atlantic, but it's carrying a lot of cargo, but it's escorting, maybe like 5 caterpillars. But it also has the caterpillars, when they come under attack, can pull in close, use all their guns to defend
Mhm.
each other, but also you have your fighters or something else flying around in order to provide cover.
The Kraken, much like the Cutlass, has no right being as good as it is. And that's kind of where Drake is just one of the better companies. And I don't say that lightly. Because I'm not really a Drake person. But their utility of their ships is what every other ship manufacturer can never achieve, because they make priorities elsewhere. So maybe they'll have better armor or reliability, let's say with the 400i, but you don't get nearly the space or the in and out ease of the Cutlass. Or maybe you get a little bit more space with the Freelancer, but you lose amenities even from the Cutlass. The Drake ships are great at finding a really almost perfect balance. And I say almost perfect because the Cutlass has no toilet and all of their armor is almost nil. So not the perfect balance, but almost perfect balance for utility. The only one they have to ever be scared of is Misk. But Misk does a lot of, it has much different philosophies. And they try and do more out of the box thinking than Drake does. So where Misk would do, let's say, stairs in the middle of a landing gear, hold C. The Kraken just has a door that just, or not a door, but just has a elevator. There we go, an elevator, or would have a ramp. Not trying to do too weird things, just do normal things that are cheap to produce and are reliable. Much like the doors in the Caterpillar, when they finish them, are cargo elevators. They go all the way down to the ground, and then they raise up to flat, so you can pull stuff off, and then they go all the way up. So they come down and down. Such utilitarian out of a door. It's amazing. It's just making me remember why I like Drake ships.
Okay,
So
let's wrap this one up, though. We're going on a long tangent, and we are coming up on 2.5 hours.
It's fine. What would you rate Ship Talk 2952?
So Shift Talk is either an 8 if this is my Anvil. It won't be an LHD because LHD would be too big. If this is my Anvil LPD, and it's in concept going into white box and then production, it's an 8, it's a 10 if that's what it, if the panel is going to show us. But if it's not, then it's a 3, because otherwise I'm like, okay, ships, great, ships are being worked on, sweet. I like Argo,
Wow,
but not that
being
big of a
shipped,
deal.
you hate it that much, huh?
It ships. I have a lot of ships, and so unless ships are related to the gameplay that I'm interested in, they're
That's
like,
true.
oh, okay, cool, it's a new shiny.
Medium
I'll
medical?
go. Yeah, well, if we were, but I don't think we're getting any medical ships, so and I'm hoping that this is going to be my LPD. I don't think it's going to be my LPD. I'm hoping, but I don't think it will be, just because, I also don't think it's going to be like a large hospital ship. So it's like, if it's not one of those two things, or if, the only thing we get as far as new ships is something small and really unrelevant to me, I'll be, disappointed.
The
I
RSI
enjoy.
Apollo, I would think, is dedicated small medical.
It's small. It's bordering on medium, because it's a little bit smaller than Apollo, but not or a Connie. So like, if it would be the ship in between the Apollo and the Endeavor, would be what I would think of as sort of like the medium large,
Mission.
leaning on large hospital
Put it
type
back.
ship. But
I mean, 20 meters, quite smaller.
but it's a lot bigger than the Cuddy Red, and has a lot more capacity than Cuddy Red.
Yeah,
so
it's the decade
it's like,
version. Let's
but yeah,
see.
so
Look at that.
if it's my LPD, you guys will hear me scream around the world, in ecstasy. But if it's not, I'll be like, eh. And if they don't even show this, I don't know what else they could show or release, as far as unannounced things, because there's not a whole lot of ship production actually going on right now. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, it's either a 3 or a 10 for me, and
Okay.
the over under on the 10 is pretty bad.
Yeah. So we have our final scores of me for 28 out of 70, and
70.
Tree, 47 or 52 out of 70. So that is our final scores for our expectations.
Those are our final answers.
On. So I am purposefully, because I don't have a lot of hope in what's coming in CitizenCon, and I'm using hope as not a like hope for the project or anything like that. I'm just hope for just showing new stuff, interesting stuff, sizzle and pop. Like I said, it's that once a year kind of stuff, not something that we could have just seen in ISC during the week. So that's what my scores are, and that's where my hope is. If there's more than that, I will gladly when we come back for our post CitizenCon show. I'm very interested to see what our scores will be then. But that's what we got for now. I'll save that so we can compare later.
Nazeris, why don't you start us off with the scanner anomalies? We've done 2.5 hours of CitizenCon expectations. Holy crap! And for those of you who are still watching and still with us, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for talking and chatting with us in the chat. We appreciate it. It's been lots of interesting conversation.
All right, so mine's actually going to be pretty short. So I'm hoping there's actually questions to go along with this from chat, because I actually couldn't find as much information on it specifically that I wanted to. But anyway, CPU and computers, the computer component in ships. You had a really clever name for it. What did you name this segment? It was really clever.
Oh,
because you named it.
Error does not compute.
Error does not compute. Yes. Okay. Perfect name for it. So we've heard about computer components for a while. Like it was
when was like the first? It's pretty early on in every ships. Every ships? I don't know what I'm saying. And when they were starting to actually design ships, that computers were going to be a thing. They were formerly called avionics or motherboards or so on. And on the Matrix of Lies, or the ship matrix, we know that every ship has a computer assigned, whether it be small, medium, or large. They might even have capital ones on there. But they've done very little in gathering all this information for us to actually have an idea of what we're doing, what they're going to do. So currently, and the reason I wanted to bring this up now is because ship CPU, which is a terrible name for the Sprint, is actually on the roadmap. It should be ship computers. Because the computer technically, yes, is the CPU, but it actually is going to give is the computers that we put the computer blades into, not just a CPU. It is the module, as they've been doing about a module a year, I believe, something like that. A different module every year. So, what is a computer component? Fully known as avionics, a computer is a component, and it has slots for blades and subcomponents. So it's a big differentiate. Blades are not ship components or subcomponents. They're different items. Subcomponents, on one hand, are a set of items that enhance the ability of the overall module, and blades are things that give function to your ship. They do also slot into the computer, but they are They are not subcomponents, because subcomponent apparently is a specific definition that enhancing items have been given. Even though technically it is an item you slot into an item, a blade is an item you slot into an item. So technically speaking, you could call them subcomponents, but they are not called subcomponents in anything you actually read. The amount of blade slots will depend on the size of the computer. For instance, medium components, as we have an image of. So if you go to the the shipyard, other ship items on the comlink, you'll see lots of different components. The computer image is the medium ones, and they have 4 slots for different blades. Fun fact, Sarah McCulloch was the one who did a lot of the art for these computers. Also the one who did the art for the concept for the Pisces and MSR. So, fun facts. So blades. So what are blades? Computer blades are the items that make ships perform a task. E.g., an auto turret blade will turn a remote turret or man turret, maybe, into an auto turret that actually tracks and shoots by itself. An encryption blade will encrypt data that you have on your hard drive. Basic computer blades or avionics will just make the ship available to fly. They said specifically there will be targeting, enhanced targeting blades. So it's really open to CIG where they draw the line on how granular they want it to be. Is this just targeting ABC, or is this combat targeting, high speed combat targeting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 into Oblivion? It is up to them, but they can add a variety of functions to it that we already have. So we could have faster lifts or better internal scanners and whatnot. Basically, anything that is digital signal around your ship could turn into a blade or turn into a series of blades to do. This will come in much handy on bigger ships and data ships. So with the Herald is a data ship. It's going to come in very handy for unencrypting or de-encrypting and encrypting the data to keep it safe. Maybe even compressing the data. That's something I just thought of, to make sure you can store more. And for bigger ships, you have a lot more things you need to keep track of. So whether that be your power systems or your gravity generator, whatever it is, they're going to need a lot more blades than a small ship. And unencrypting encrypting and de-encrypting will be a pretty big deal for hacking things. The one question they had on the post for For the components page, which is the one both me and Tree got, the shipyard post. By the way, if anyone has questions for computers, let me know so I can actually extend my bit to not half a minute. Anyway, questions: are computer blades sub items? What did I talk about? No, they are their own standalone item that adds or expands functionality. So that's what. Yeah, I basically just copied this into it earlier. Anyway, but this is straight from the devs. Rather than improving a baseline, while currently there can be no blah, blah, blah. While currently they can only be added to computer items that may not be the only place for them in the future. So this is talking about blades. So blades may have a specific slot in other things. Let's say a outpost or a space station, just randomly, or not randomly, but randomly.
Didn't they say that the blade for AI turrets or what are the PDCs, the automated turrets, would have the turret would come with the blade in them, and it wouldn't take up computer space? Does that sound
I
right?
don't know. I did not hear that.
Because when I read this, that's what because I remembered that statement. Because I remember that like that was part of the upgrade for like the Idris K that has the PDC turrets, and so it replaces some of the manned turrets with automated PDCs, and
Hmm.
the way a PDC works versus like say a remote turret or a manned turret is that it already has the turret AI blade or whatever you want to call it installed in it, so it doesn't take up computer space. Whereas you could use computer space in order to blade a turret.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So a
Does that
automated
make
turret, you can equip an automated turret, and it's already automated.
Yep.
Or
Versus if you wanted to blade
contrary
a
to
non-automated turret, you would
right.
have to use blade
No, that
space.
yes, I did hear that. Yes. An automated turret is an automated turret, but slaving and a not automated turret will take a blade. Yes.
Hmm.
Um.
In your computer.
Yes. Yeah, in the computer.
Hmm.
And I do hope that they actually make sure that there are many functions with blades, so you're actually making decisions. It's not just, yeah, I have the base functions, so I'm good. Where they actually make it, do I want like longer range scanners or whatnot? So basically, you have your like base computer blade, so it has all like your base functions, but you can also do like a better scanning blade, which will trump your base scanning with your basic blade in there. So you actually have to put in a better one. So do I want like better mining or whatever? Better scanning, better mining, whatever. Um, Also, I really hope that they do the near automata thing and let you just rip out your base functionality of your ship. It's like rip out avionics and your ship can't fly. Like I really want them to be able to do that. Specifically, it's for dumb people to rip out avionics of their ship and learn they can't fly without them. And also to like be able to loot avionics panels from ships. I think that'd be kind of cool for salvage. Let's say like you find like a wrecked racer around a racetrack while just kind of scouting around or just joyriding, and they have a better avionics blade than you have. So you just okay, they crashed. They're not using it anymore. So you take their enhanced avionics or enhanced control avionics, whatever, and throw it in your ship. I think that would be really cool. But that's let's see, what do we got? Wonder if this means you could steal blades from stations like Korea and slot them into the same size blade slot on your ship. Um, that depends on compatibility and function. Like you're not gonna get a like ATC blade and put it on an MSR. It's there's no point. It's not gonna really do anything. Um, Also can make salvage more powerful. Yes, that is kind of the whole objective of customization is make things that can be done, make things that can be done better. So those who put out a little bit more get a little more back. Find some ultra rare blades, sell it, or use it yourself. Yes, or maybe even with the Endeavor computer systems, the upgradable systems like it's called the Super Collider that they mentioned you could overclock weapons, maybe even making your own computer blades. Make them do bigger, better things. As avionics specialist IRL, oh hey, the idea of people ripping avionics anything out and trying to fly themselves. um, I think they have been making good progress on this because I noticed they flicker on PDCs for Ninetales Lockdown interest in what 317. I do know how that relates to blades.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe that is part of how it's in, part of how it works. I'm not sure. I haven't heard any mention of those being bladed PDCs. So the sprint for ship
Oh.
CPU starts with a couple of weeks back here when they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do this," and then, "Oh no, we're gonna have to pause."
That
In
was probably
Q1 2021. Yeah,
That was probably
this
just
is
the stuff that got onto the roadmap. That was probably worked still
Progress Tracker
previous to the
started
roadmap.
here, but
Yeah.
this ended, and then they took a long break for over a year until they just did a sprint with audio for ship CPU, and
Yep.
now about to start some vehicle feature teamwork.
Yep.
And VFT is upstream or downstream?
What a blade that
Vehicle
does what
feature
Air
is
Force One.
upstream. So we will see how much further this work, how much what other teams need to be added to this. Because vehicle feature is a downstream team, and this sprint only goes out to here, and so there might be
some art added.
Yeah, I would imagine maybe downstream teams to be added because honestly, as far as making the asset, there isn't a whole lot to do. It's the gameplay. So we'll see what downstream teams.
Yeah, Kamak says, I want a blade that does what Air Force One has to avoid incoming missile fire. That's definitely a possibility. But it would probably show you a trajectory you want to fly instead of taking over your ship, possibly. Autopilot will almost definitely be a blade. We already have an auto landing, which will probably be its own blade. So we probably will have quite a set of pre-installed blades when you get your ship. And I imagine smaller ships will have
autopilot could do some pretty, like, okay, you have to make several quantum jumps to get to some place. Okay, I want to have my blade do it for me, so that way I can walk away for 10 minutes and make a sandwich, 10, 15, 20 minutes, make a sandwich, do a few things, hop on the job and come back, you are where you are. Hopefully you didn't get interdicted and shot, but
right. There will probably be a good fuzzy line between what a blade does and what a NPC crew will do. And on the other side of that, there'll be a fuzzy line between what a NPC crew and a player crew can do. So there's going to be a nice mess of colors in there of what your ship can do and who can do it. So that'll be nice. Let's see. Any other ones? Jeff Lewis salvage, alongside components, great loot. Yep. I loves you. Thank goodness it's a game. Cost. Not sure if avionics are removable though. Maybe you can upgrade them with blade and give you better VTOL control or automatic landing, which we would just want. Clever cruise mode, I like that. That's actually a really nice idea. Clever cruise, where you just set highest speed, hit cruise, and it will just avoid objects in front of you. That's actually a really cool idea. Stealth blade to make mine Klingon bird of prey talent would be very nice. They've already confirmed that cloak will not be a thing, so no cloaking. But a blade to govern signatures could be a thing. Tesla autopilot in space. No, God, no. Not Tesla. God, no. Like, how many years have Tesla been working on the autopilot? It's still running over fake children? They still can't get it to avoid small objects.
How are you supposed to get points?
Oh my
Insert
gosh.
blade. I want the blade to get me all the points.
It's a point blade. An ally blade won't rage quit in the middle of flying your character to Pyro 5 and steal your Pisces like an underpaid
Like an
NPC.
underpaid NPC.
I mean, you right though.
That would be really funny if an NPC could rage quit because you didn't pay them enough. Like that. I can't wait to hear the Wildline recording or something like that. I've had it. Walks out in airlock.
Yeah, just walks out.
Okay, so who wants to shop now?
I was just like, oh, you quit then? Okay, walk out the airlock and shoot him, and then just like walk back inside. All right, who wants to be pilot?
Who knows how to fly this thing?
Oh, that's great. I like it. All right. That is all I got for computers. Like I said, it was shorter, but this is being worked on, and there's a lot of possibilities. And this is one of the features that is going to expand with the game.
Mhm.
So the different ships will be able to have different blades. We know that the MSR specifically has 4 medium. So what's that? 16 slots. We don't know how many of them are going to be taken up by ship systems, but that's a lot of slots.
On the ship CP, the ship's computer and blades, it's part of the resource management system.
Yep.
There are going to be things that you will want to. Okay, I need to dedicate computing power, in order to do this better, or
Yeah.
or even accomplish this. You could dedicate computing power to your quantum drive in order to
Calculate faster.
to spool and align faster, or spool it up faster. So
Comtac says, "I wonder if all NPCs on ships will wear red shirts. I wonder if they have thought of being able to, like, on a upper class ship, right? Especially like an 890. Would you be able to define your workers' uniforms? Like, if I'm
could be.
hiring NPCs, do I get to provide them with uniforms?
I want a bunch of scantily clad green Orion girls. I said what I
Okay,
said.
moving on. Like, if you're in, like, let's say a Kraken again. Can you tell, like, hey, you're an engineer, I need you to wear this hard hat and, high-vis vest? Or you're a fighter pilot, you get this uniform. Or you're, this guy, you get this one. I wonder if you'll be able to like, define your crews. Like, you'll be able to tell players, hey, I want you to wear this on my ship. And for most orgs, that will be like, absolutely, that makes sense. Like, wearing different things. Like, for a pickup crew, not necessarily, and that's one normal pirates are pickup crews, so you don't really get uniform stuff moving. But I think that would be hopefully something they've thought about, is being able to dictate your NPC crew's uniforms, especially if you can just buy the items and have them in lockers already on your ship.
Mm-hmm.
That would make sense. Like, hey, you're this, so you do use this. I don't know how I would even, like, design the system to actually start defining that. Like, to dictate to an NPC what menu you would use, how you would use it. Because you'd have to hire an NPC is one UI, and then you'd have to have them on your ship, and you'd have to tell that NPC, because you are this job, use this uniform when on the job. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to do this uniform. That's the
Would
part
be
I don't know.
helpful to for like during boarding, or if you're have a landing action or something like that. That okay, I want to sign this uniform. I'm going to provide this uniform, so that way, not only do I have the AR marker telling me that you're on my team, but also the fact that you look like you're on my team, so I don't accidentally shoot you.
Yeah. Comic says, man, that's way too much management. That was what some people live for. Like, we
Micromanagement.
have yet to bring over a lot of Eve players. We have plenty of elite players, elite dangerous players. They seem to be coming over in droves. It's definitely not because Elite Dangerous is a sinking ship at all. Um, but we have yet to get the kind of gameplay that Eve players want, and we don't want Eve players. That's not necessarily true. Eve, as far as I hear, is spreadsheets in space. So you give more spreadsheets in space, you'll get more Eve players. And the kind of crap that happens in Eve, there will be systems to fix them. So, maybe not yet, but eventually. And we're definitely gonna want Eve players for the grunt work, the brunt of the 90% of player, well, not 90%, but the majority of mining, the majority of a lot of like stuff that spreadsheets in space are good at, because like they're good at some stuff, but there's
I think a
lot
lot of them
more.
will make the adjustment, but some will not. I think some will
Right.
come over for the immersion and the aspects that are
Oh yeah.
Eve like, but
Yeah.
some of the more hardcore people will not. But we'll see.
Eve's an old game.
Mm-hmm.
Eve players are all like old like me. Let them age out with Eve. That I've heard of a lot of, well, younger, very annoying people in Eve. Very annoying.
I alpha and beta tested Eve way back in the day. I played Eve for years. Haven't played in a very long time, like since single digit 2000s. But yeah,
When the trading boards in the Hurston building go live, then we'll go. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
mm-hmm.
I can see
Yeah,
that.
the quantum
Like
economy.
I can see a lot of Eve players coming over to run cargo divisions in orgs.
Yeah, that's the spreadsheets in
There's
space. That's
always
their
toxic
gameplay.
PvP group in every game that enables it. Yeah. The difference is how the game deals with them. Eve is like, nope, not touching them. They can do whatever the heck they want. Star Citizen's like, you can do it, but there will be consequences.
Yeah, you can do it, but there are way more NPCs than you, and they will wreck your ish.
If you become a bigger threat than the Vanduul, be sure the Navy's showing up at your doorstep.
Yeah,
So it will happen.
the UEE and the Bounty Hunters Guild and the Advocacy
It will
and
make money off
different
of your death.
militias. Yeah,
So the game has already with the PvP bounty system, but later on with the NPCs and security and Navy getting involved later, the game is set up to run itself. So, and no player will ever be able to take over a segment of the game. Not PvP, not mining any one resource, not delivering any one resource. All players at all times. So at any time, every single player that's online is only 10% of the population in the entire game. And that will be taken into the fact for the dynamic population. So the Quantum will say, hey, there are 500,000 players in Stanton right now. So that's 10% of the population of Stanton. You can't mess with that. You just can't. Yeah. I'm going to stop ranting now so Tree can do his thing. Sorry, Tree. Go
It's
ahead. What do you
okay.
got?
My scanner anomaly is called the long haul, and so this is a conversation that's sort of been had multiple times, not recently, but I've seen it batted around, and a lot of people are concerned about the sizes of star systems in Star Citizen, and they're like, "Oh, Pyro's so huge," and like, oh, "It's really not that big. It's less than 3 times the size of Stanton. It is 13 AU. Stanton is 5." Um, I have this spreadsheet that shows the for that I made for a different scanner anomaly that I did to ask about the differences in the sizes of systems relative, based off the arc star map, which has been continually updated since its release in 2016 to what SC Tools has listed from when those systems were added at some point. So this is the up-to-date side. The TAMSA system is 304 AU. Helios, 237. I'm not going to pronounce that, but it's Xion. It's 199. Killian is 194. Geddon, 128. Null, 120. Ellis, 100. These are all like the, if we gave systems a size classification rating, Stanton is down here in the single digits. We'll call these the extra small. And then, the 10s and maybe 20s would be small, 30s through 50s, medium, and, 50 to 99 would be large, and then extra large or capital, systems, whatever you want to call them. But, that's a huge difference. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, if it takes you, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, depending on your ship, what have you, to cross Stanton, it'll take you forever to cross a system that size. It will take you a long time. It won't take you forever because it is not a linear relationship. And so because of this, I wanted to share with you a post that Chris Roberts himself made back in March 30th of 2019 to explain quantum drives and how they work.
This was basically a letter from the chairman on quantum drives and quantum travel.
Mm-hmm.
It is nuts, and I still don't comprehend most of it, so I'm very looking forward to this.
Yeah. So I'm just going to summarize a few of these things because I've read through it. There will be more in the show notes. You'll see the things that I screenshotted. The link is also in the show notes to the actual post yourself, so you can read it for yourself. I've probably read it like 5 or 6 times still, 2 or 3 times today, but many more times than that previously to try and wrap my head around it. But basically, what a quantum drive is it creates a warp bubble around your ship that's inspired by, in theory, by the Alcubierre drive. And what it does is it contracts space directly in front of your ship while expanding it behind your ship. It creates the field, the warp bubble field around you, and the more powerful that field, the more powerful that field, the difference between the the amount of contraction in front of you and the expansion behind you is what generates that speed. But there's no, it's just expanding and contracting space, so you don't move. That's why you don't have any inertia when you don't, when you get interdicted, you don't just drop out of space and splat against your windshield or feel pull against your seat belts or something. The way that it does this is that the quantum drive, it also has the ability to manipulate energy density around your ship, which is how it opens up the jump points like wormholes. And so it uses the negative energy density, or in front of your ship, around your ship, in order to open up jump gates or jump points. But it also is how it creates that quantum field, the warp field around your ship, to move you across space at really fast speeds. And initially they were talking about 0.2 C, but the relationship is different now because of the scale of Star Citizen, and that like stellar distances are 1/10. He goes on to talk about how quantum matter and quantum fuel is it's exotic matter, and that's how it's able to create that field. But it requires that exotic matter along with stupid amounts of power in order to do that. He also talks about how thrusters work and how thrusters are based off of Vasimir thrusters, which is why power and heat is also very important to thrusters and how ships fly. This will be a lot more apparent when the full implementation of thruster efficiency curves comes into the game. But that's how because in order to generate. So we're going to come down to this paragraph. It requires a huge amount of power in order to convert the quantum matter into that negative energy field, in front of your ship and around your ship, expand, contracting it in front of you, expanding it behind you, and using all that power and that process is what generates a ton of heat. This is why we have, part of the reason we have coolers. One of the main reasons we have coolers on our ships, besides the fact that your thrusters generate heat when they're working and they need to shed that heat somewhere. The actual process of the quantum drive working and the reaction, not reaction, but the process that the power plant generates all the power in order to convert quantum matter into that negative energy field. All that generates a lot of heat. And so the continuous operation of the quantum drive continually generates more and more heat. And that's why you have the coolers. They're like heat sinks, in that not only do they collect the heat, but then it allows it to dissipate. But you think of it like the coolers have like a reservoir, and that reservoir is, has the ability to drain, but only at a certain rate. And along with your coolant, your resource management system, you're circulating coolant to your power plant, to your quantum drive, back to your coolers in order to dissipate heat. Well, you can only transport so much heat to your cooler. The cooler can only retain so much heat while it's being offloaded, and it can only offload heat so quickly. And so this is why the larger ships have the ability to jump to quantum faster and quantum farther, because they can not only have more room for more power generation, they have more power plants, they have bigger power plants, so they can create a more powerful quantum field around your ship in order to quantum faster. But because they also have more room for coolers and more coolant and coolant being moved around, it means that they can quantum for longer before the coolers are overtasked, and the drive has to shut down because it's getting too hot. So you can, with the larger your ship, and thus the larger your quantum drive and the larger your power plant, you can create a more powerful quantum field, warp bubble around your ship in order to go faster. But it also means you can retain and dissipate more heat, dissipate the heat that it generates for longer. So you can you can go much faster and farther, because you can go faster and you can go faster for a longer period of time. You can make much longer jumps and a much shorter speed. Now, before we get down to this next part, I want to mention this because at the bottom he talks about, I have highlighted a section in my original post just to make it clear that the current balance, how many jumps, time duration, is a work in progress and will be adjusted. And secondly, the UI is talking about ship computer stuff. So his original post that he's talking about is mentioned in the SC Tools wiki, but the link no longer works. That post was taken down. And so what he was talking about in that post, if you go back up to this reference in the wiki, he was talking about how currently ships only travel at speeds up to 0.2 C or 20% the speed of light. We actually go faster than that. Someone did the math when traveling long distances. Shorter journeys do not approach 0.2 C. The speed of travel also varies significantly by the specific quantum drive installed, primarily based on its size. For instance, a size 3 drive, commonly found on capital ships, which would actually be size 4, is capable of approximately twice the speed of a size 1 drive, commonly found on single-seat ships. Now, this is stuff from that post that he deleted. And I think they deleted it because he was saying things that probably aren't going to be painting designers in their corner, when it's actually going to be different, especially given that we have other things mentioned in the shipyard. But it does show you that the longer the distance, the faster you go. And so this alludes to the idea that not only can larger ships achieve higher speeds and achieve those higher speeds and sustain them for longer periods of time, but that in order to achieve those higher speeds, it requires you to accelerate, essentially, because over a shorter distance you wouldn't have the amount of time needed to achieve that higher speed. So while the speed relationship is narrower in a smaller system like Stanton, where you have shorter jumps, shorter quantum travel jumps, quantum travel distances across these larger systems, that's what the way this reads, and that's sort of how this relationship would work really well, is if over a longer system or a larger system and larger jumps, ships could achieve higher speeds on a longer jump, and in order to take advantage, and also take advantage of that longer jump time in order to cross bigger distances faster. And while that relationship would still apply to smaller ships, your fighters aren't going to be able to take advantage of that outside of your small systems, because they won't be able to really even make that jump without overheating, past several AU. But the larger the system, more larger and larger ships will be able to take advantage of that larger space in order to reach top speeds and sustain those top speeds over longer periods. So that way your relationship for how long your character takes to cross Stanton, it wouldn't be a 20-to-1 relationship with or 60-to-1 relationship, or wait, what's 20? It wouldn't take you 24 times as long to cross Null, because you're able to accelerate for longer, and then sustain that top speed for longer, because you wouldn't basically run out of space. So while it'll still take you a while, it won't take you, it won't be 24 times whatever it takes you to cross Stanton.
So with that math, would it be advantageous to overshoot a target to get the speed increase of the longer distance and then make another jump back to the target?
So we're actually going to get into that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you so in the universe of Star Citizen, no one that humanity knows of has made a quantum drive that can operate indefinitely. A quantum drive allows you to cover great distances in a short period of time, but is only capable of operation for a limited amount of time before it needs to shut itself down and cool off. This is why we made heat as well as quantum matter the driver of quantum travel time distance, in that it allows players to make choices in how they configure and set up their ship. Explorers would likely favor higher quality and larger cooling. Higher quality because it allows them to generate a stronger field, and larger cooling being that they could sustain that stronger field for longer, as well as a strong power source, to couple with the higher quality to generate that stronger field for long distance quantum travel and jumps. So that's the other part of this that alludes to that, the quality of your components and the size of your components is going to factor into how fast and how long you can travel. And that's why large ships have the advantage over small ships in these larger and larger systems. Why it's going to be necessary to have large ships to cross these really big systems, or to transport smaller ships across these systems. The other really interesting part is you can configure your ship for, the whole idea is to have the player make hard choices in what components to upgrade or equip. What is their priority? Combat, travel time over distance, protection. All things in the game are meant to have trade-offs. We don't want some meta ship or loadout that trumps everything else. You configure your ship for combat, but you can't quantum as far as your weapons and shields are sucking down a bunch of power and cooling. If we didn't tie this to the power and heat, but instead use some arbitrary time per drive, there wouldn't be as much ability for the player to affect things inside a holistic system where all the components of the ship matter. So this is where things get really interesting for making those long jumps, especially where, okay, well, what are you going to do during those long jumps? You're just going to sit there. Well, you can make that jump shorter by doing the engineering gameplay that we mentioned earlier, where you're going to divert more coolant to your quantum drive and your power plant. You're going to shut down power to maybe even your shields or other items in order to divert more power to your from your power plant to your quantum drive in order to generate an even stronger field and go that much faster. And if you're not having to power those other items, you're not having to cool them, so you can also sustain that, keep that drive cooler for longer while also going faster. Or maybe you want to be more fuel efficient, and um, so you could have a smaller field, not go as fast, but you wouldn't generate as much heat, so therefore you also aren't consuming as much power, so you don't need to you don't consume as much fuel, you don't have to stop as often. You're trading speed for efficiency. This is much better gameplay as it gives players the opportunity to tweak and adjust on the fly. We built a systemic pipe and resource management system for ships, people, and locations, just so people could make trade-offs in the resources dedicated to various components to achieve their current goal. This was in 2019, March of 2019. We didn't see that demo that Dan Truffin did with the Hammerhead until I think it was September. It was like fall of 2020, a year and a half later. They were already thinking about this and prototyping it. Dedicated various components to achieve their current goal or use this knowledge to cause havoc on an enemy ship or base. When far away from the nearest landing zone, you can't just equip a bigger or better quantum drive in your ship, but you could divert a lot more power and cooling to it to get that get just that little extra distance. And they said, having said that, it doesn't mean that the initial learning curve should be steep. Power overclocking and heat management, because you could overclock components too if you really need to get somewhere fast, should be how invested players can squeeze an extra 10 to 20% from their equipment. This is just throwing numbers out there to give them an edge. You don't have to do it, but if you know your ship and components, well, you can Scotty that extra bit you may need in a tight bind. Or just to go get somewhere faster, to save fuel because you're running low, in order to or conserve your components and reduce wear and tear, in order to increase profit margins when hauling. This is the whole, we want the game to be easy to learn, difficult to master, but giving you a lot of player agency and autonomy to fly your ship the way you want, but also to give you a lot of stuff to do in order to optimize your time when in quantum travel across bigger systems. Oh, Cromtac says, time for me to bedlog, early day tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, dude. If you're still there, we really appreciate you stopping by and participating in the conversation. It's been a lot of fun. Can't equip bigger drive. Liberators entered the chat, but a Liberator can only carry a large quantum drive. It's not a capital class ship. It doesn't have a capital class drive. So there's only so much you can do. But if you want to use your Liberator to cross a large system, you need to get farther, then you can do things in order to extend your range or shorten your time to reach your destination. We talked about this. The shipyard. So shipyard talks about there's they have all these components, including quantum drives, and then the sizes, and that we know that the sizes for power plants for quantum drives are all going to take into effect. You might have a ship with a large quantum drive, but a capital class power plant in order to power, maybe a capital class shield generator. Well, if you are in quantum and you're in a safe area crossing a large system, you can turn off that big shield generator with that big power drain and direct a ton more power to that quantum drive in order to, get you going that much faster. And it might consume more fuel, but it might get you there quicker. These are those things that they're talking about. And then there's the different grades of your components are going to impact, the performance of your quantum drive, your power plant. So there's going to be, it's not just a quantum drive. This quantum drive achieves X speed. It's, you can achieve a range of speed based off of the quantum drive and the power plant and how much power you can generate, how much power you are directing towards your quantum drive versus other components. And then also, how much cooling. So there's a lot of different combinations that will allow you to, it is definitely not a binary system. And that's what's making this really interesting. Because you have your different grades, but you also have your item classifications: military, civilian, stealth, industrial, and competition, and then sub items. Nazeris talked about how you have subcomponents, and computer blades aren't subcomponents, but you could have sub items. Pardon me. A subcomponent in your power plant or in your quantum drive that can provide a bunch of different boosts, relative to how you operate your quantum drive, how you how you plan to do quantum travel, what your priority is. You could even have computer blades within your CPU that affect quantum travel. As far as calculations, making it so you are able to spool and align more quickly, or to shorten the cooldown time in between jumps, to improve efficiency. There are so many different ways that they're planning to make this far more interesting, but also to provide players more challenge if they want it, but also to allow things to scale appropriately for these really large star systems, so that way it isn't just a linear relationship. And I hadn't even included this image, but I thought it was really cool since you found it was up at the top, and I just skimmed right over it. But it shows concept art for the actual quantum drive component, and I forget what size this is, but it has the quantum drive down here, and then your jump drive, because a jump drive is a subcomponent that attaches to your quantum drive. So in theory, if you were going to stay in a system, you might even remove your jump drive, because you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to be in this system for a while. I want to remove my jump drive in order to, make it so, this whole component doesn't consume as much power, and it allows more power for your quantum drive. That sort of thing could be something that we see. But that is what I have for my scanner anomaly. It isn't going to take you 24 times as long to cross null or 20 times as long to cross Ellis as it does the Stanton system, because it's not going to be a linear relationship based off of what Chris Roberts himself has said about quantum travel, the quantum drives, the resource, and our upcoming resource management system, and along with the variety in our components. But yeah, I hope you guys found that interesting and informative. We will get the show notes so you can read all this stuff for yourselves, and reference back to it, save it for later, up when I post this video on YouTube. It has been, for me, Nazeris, and I think you probably would agree, a very fun episode with lots of good interaction with our little community. So we really appreciate you guys tuning in live. And if you would do me a favor, once I get this up on YouTube, if you would give me a like and a subscribe, it will be posted in my Discord. Maybe even just play the video in the background, and so that way I can get feed the YouTube algorithm, because I'm trying to get to the point where I can have my custom YouTube name. It'll say YouTube /tree.com/tree0311. But I would appreciate it once I get these 2 videos up on YouTube, if I could get you to watch and a subscribe, leave a little comment, and join us in the Discord if you haven't already, because that's where Nazeris and I will interact with you guys and share information with you and take questions for future scanner anomalies and spectrum pulses. That's where we can get that interaction going, and we can dig into the things that you guys want to learn about going forward.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep. That's all I got. I don't know. I already did my little what I got.
Yeah. Kale
Ah,
says, "Is this a normal time for the podcast?" We usually get started, um, sometime, usually at 10 p.m. Eastern. I'm Mountain Time, so it's 8 p.m. my time. Sometimes it'll be an hour earlier if we can. It's mostly determined based off of when I can get my kid to bed, because I'm a dad gamer. And we try to do this on Mondays. Um, Nazareth has a bit more of a conventional schedule, so he's unfortunately subject to the whims of my job. I work 4 days on, 12 days off, and I have to commute 2 states away for my 4 day shift. Like I leave for my 4 day shift on Sunday. I start my shift on Monday, and then I won't get back until late Thursday, all this next week. Um, yeah,
yeah,
oh
I think the
seven,
only more
dad, fellow dad
conventional
gamer.
I don't go out of state for my job.
Hmm. Yeah, like this next week we won't have a Monday episode because I'll be at work. But maybe Nazareth and I can make it work for like Friday or Saturday. We'll see. Um, but we'll definitely be back for the following week. Hopefully, it should be Monday the following week. And
Post.
in the Discord, and I didn't do it this time, but I am going to be, once Nazareth and I firm up our date and time, I'll create the event in Discord so that way you guys know, generally about a week, 4 or 5 days in advance, to a week, if not longer, when we're going to be doing an episode. And then as we get closer, I'll update the event so that way if we don't know, um, if we know it's going to be, hey, we're going over the roadmap or the monthly reports, we'll put that in there. But once we get closer and we know what thank you, Nazareth, appreciate it. Um, Once we get closer to, like, if we're going to do an episode like this with a spectrum pulse and scanner anomalies, when we get closer and we've done our, named the topics and made our notes and stuff, I'll put those in the event so that way you guys know ahead of time, and you'll be like, ooh, they're going to be talking about this week. That'll be interesting. Kale, thank you for joining us and joining me in Discord. I appreciate it. Um, if you do the Twitters, you can give me a follow. I'm also on Twitter at Trio311-SC. It's where I also make these announcements, and I also share lots of little tidbits that Nazareth and I find in our digging. Nazareth and I are like, we're basically space dwarves. We, we're just digging through the mines, finding all the information. The mines of Moria.
I do a lot less mining now than I used to like a couple months back.
Yeah. But yeah,
But
that.
my flows.
Oh,
I'll be
I
back.
am hopefully going to be getting into mining, um, eventually. Not in game, but we're mining for information right now. That's what we're doing. But yeah, that's all we have for this episode. Thanks for joining us live. If you're watching later, like, subscribe, leave a comment, please, and join us in the Discord. Give Nazareth and I follows on Twitter. We love the interaction. We look forward to hearing from you. And this is a lot of fun, and we will see you soon. Nazareth, you want to take us away with what you always do?
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you again for staying and chatting, and it has been fun, super fun. This was actually a very energetic episode.
Mhm.
I gotta get to bed. Tree's gotta get to bed. So
Yeah.
thank you again for coming, and as always, be kind.